Okay, I've got the top of the hour, so why don't we got everyone here for the select board. Why don't we bring the meeting to order? Are there any additions or changes to the agenda as presented?
I got a request. There was an additional request from the Racial Justice Committee at an earlier meeting about making the inclusivity statement more prominent on town publications that we had not voted on.
Okay, I thought we did, but we'll take that up as part of the discussion under racial justice, I guess. So more apparent on the statement, or a formal vote on the statement.
Yeah, and trying to include it. We've kind of informally said that we would include it more often. There haven't been a lot of great opportunities to do that.
Okay.
But I think they would.
Okay.
I think the request is for us to actually vote on making that official.
We'll hear what they have to present. Anything else?
That's all I've got.
Any board members got anything?
No.
All set.
Okay. Is the board prepared to approve the meeting minutes for March 15th and 19th?
So moved. Second.
Got motion and second. Any discussion on either meeting minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Rosemary, you're up.
I don't have too much for tonight. I just got the warrant. And Hugh would like a town credit card. Any board members opposed to that?
Not me.
No?
What, why now, as opposed to, like, what's he gonna be able to do that other people haven't? Why does that make it more convenient for him?
Is Hugh on the call?
Will
I'm
be
not
later.
seeing him yet, but I'm expecting him. Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Hugh, can you explain why you would like a credit card?
Yeah, there's often times where I have to get, I have to request Rosemary acquire something for me. And then this latest time, we've had a couple of items that need to be shipped out to be calibrated and get back. And it's either have one or go spend my own money and get reimbursed, or ask Rosemary to drive to the UPS store and ship it out. And just really a matter of simplifying things.
Okay. Any board members have any? Beth?
Is there, if we did like a prepaid card, is there a specific limit? I'm just thinking that, you know, there are certain limits that would go through different approval processes, I assume. So I'm just wondering if like a $500 prepaid would do it, or were you looking for something that is, you know, what are the charges going to look like? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I don't really have a limit. It was just a matter of I have an item that I've wanted to ship out for 3 weeks now, and was told originally when I started that reimbursements were kind of frowned upon. So I've never been in a situation where it's been this difficult to finish or complete such a simple task.
Yeah, no, I'm not really cool with you fronting the money for it. I think that's not fair to you. I just usually, with a financial thing, we usually like to have a check in place. But I guess there's really no different than if you were to buy something from a store in which we have a town account. And this isn't about you either, Hugh. This is just about general best practices and accountability. So who would be looking at those bills every month, the charges every month?
I would anticipate Rosemary is, as the financial officer.
Do you want to put a dollar limit on it before? Then have Brian's approval before he makes the purchase?
That could be a check and balance. I mean, for minor expenditures, there is a check and balance that the statements would come to you, and then the orders to pay the bill would come to the select board. So there are some checks and balances, but we certainly could put a stipulation on over some amount would require, a second approval.
How does that sound to you if we put a,
Honestly, I don't care. It's just this one instance came up, and I just thought instead of asking Rosemary to go to Stowe for me, it would just make things easier. So honestly, whatever you guys want to do, it may
What's the
never come up again.
what's the $2,000 limit going to do here? Why don't we just do that? It's kind of a matter of trust. We all trust you. I don't
Yeah,
think we
but-
need to second guess him too much.
I
Well,
don't
it's
think it's
not
about-
about Hugh in particular. It's
It would be precedent setting. So what we do would go forward, either for a replacement for Hugh or for other officers if we were to present or allow credit cards.
Well, not necessarily. A different board can make a different decision on something like this. Why don't we just put a $2,000 limit on his credit card? Let him have a credit card.
say a $200 limit, and anything over that get approval through Brian, through the town administrator?
I'm hearing a lot of should do's. Is there someone out there who wants to make it formal with a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to authorize Hugh a town credit card with a $200 limit, and anything over that requiring town administrator's approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. No, we couldn't. I can now.
I thought you were seconding, Evan. I wasn't sure.
I was, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay,
Okay, we'll have to take a roll call vote. Nat, how do you vote?
Aye.
Beth, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mike, how do you vote?
nay,
Eben, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the ayes have it, motion passes. Anything else, Rosemary?
Just to authorize to sign the warrants.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
move the chairman.
Second motion.
Have a motion and second, to authorize the chair to sign the warrants. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Did you get all the signatures on the liquor licenses?
Yes,
Okay,
I got 3, so I sent them in on Friday.
okay. Anything else?
That's all that I had.
Anybody got any questions for Rosemary? If not, thank you, Rosemary.
You're
I
welcome.
guess, Brian, we'll get into your agenda. The first item up is the paving proposal.
so we went out to bid with two sites for paving last year. It was let's see, Plot Road and Hugh, what was our second location?
I don't recall. You were gonna tell me, and we never talked about it again.
No.
I don't recall what it was. I know that I am proposing doing something on Ober Hill. I don't know if that was part of the original plan or not.
Yeah, at any rate, we had delayed that so that we were out for a class 2 paving grant to assist with Plot Road. When last year the state elected to not fill any Class 2 grants, they eliminated the program for 1 year, made a donation to all municipal entities of around $20,000 instead of fulfilling any particular grants. So that left us in a little bit of a lurch, and we're kind of up at the point of, what do we want to do about it next year? It was Oberhill Road. Sorry to change gears. Oberhill was our second location. So we have the two grants the two received bids from our proposal, but we really can't consider those worth anything anymore. It's been too long. They'd agreed to hold the prices for 3 months, but that was a year ago, so we can't really count on that. We're likely to have to go back out to bid, and Hugh has an alternative that he'd like us to consider. As you know, one of our locations is Plot Road. That Plot Road, to kind of bring the board up to speed about the sub-base on Plot Road isn't in good shape. So if we're going to do anything on Plot Road, we're going to have to take all the pavement up, grind it all down, and rebuild it from the very beginning. And it's going to be very expensive to get relatively few yards of road rebuilt. That location, though, is it's not one of the areas that really needs to be paved. It's not especially high traffic. It's not an especially steep grade. There's a real possibility that it could be a very good gravel road. And Hugh has got a proposal for us to consider about maybe we take it to a gravel road instead of repaving. And Hugh, do you want to provide some details for that?
Yeah, so I had a couple of ideas to send out to you guys, but I know that we have a portion of my budget is $95,000 that I guess, Brian, that was supposed to coincide with some grant money that we were hoping to get.
Yeah.
So the portion of Plot Road is from Clay Hill about just under a half a mile. It's practically level. I didn't even know it was paved, honestly, taking this job. There's so many holes in it, and bumps and dips, that when I was told that it was asphalt, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. To pay to do that again seems silly when Plot Road is several miles long and we maintain it with a grader. The cheaper alternative is to pay to have someone come in, reclaim, grind that asphalt out and chew it up along with some of the gravel base that's under it, relay it back down, and we grade it out and compact it. The cost is a fraction of what it would cost to pave for a stretch of road that I don't really see why it was paved to begin with. So the idea is to save a bunch of money doing that stretch, which is about 2,000 feet by 24, as well as the Oberhill stretch, which is about 1,000 feet that goes from 100C up to Duke's Road. Again, that's a horrible stretch of asphalt. We can grind, we can reclaim, fix the ditches of both stretches, grade it, compact it, and just maintain it like we do the rest of the sections of roads for like $26,000. And to me, that allows us to have a lot of budget money left over to address some of these other issues we have in town where the asphalt is in really bad shape. So that was just an idea that I had, that we've been given a really good price from Minash to do the reclaiming. He has a brand new reclaimer he wants to get it out there and use it. So I think this is a good opportunity to save some money and accomplish several other projects later on this year.
Okay,
That's-
Mike, did you have something?
I just think that's an outstanding idea.
Any other board members? Beth? Have some
Curious.
thoughts?
Yeah, Plot Road was paved for the first time about 20 years ago. And Eric, that seems to align with your time on the board. Do you remember why it was initially paved?
Yes, well, I may. And I was actually going to bring this up to Hugh. It's something that we did for every highway foreman since Willie Jewett is challenged the foreman to, if money was no object, looking at the current traffic patterns and where we have anticipated development growth, potential development growth, which highways would you anticipate should be paved in the next 10, 25, 50 years? And if it's sometime when you're able to just sit down and look at the roads, and maybe you need to get a little better feel for the community, but if you could come back with that kind of information. And that was part of what happened all those years ago. Was at that time they were thinking that Plot Road being a class 2 road, that might make sense to have it paved for some portion because of the amount of funneled in traffic, as well as I know Footbrook was also talked about. That was if money was no object, and when reality has struck, we struggle to even maintain the paved roads we have. So, but it is still nice to have that kind of information if you have a chance, Hugh, in the future sometime to bring it. I think that's how we got to where Plot Road was starting to be paved. There was some thoughts that because of the traffic flow and anticipated feeder into it, that it should be paved. I guess I would sort of want to ask also, if we have 69,000 left over, that line item is supposed to be for pavement. We would still want to do something with it because that money would bring down state dollars to get more bang for the buck. So I think we would want to know what we're going to be looking at to use that money.
So you've got, I'll answer your first question. Oberhill would be fantastic to pave the whole thing. Collins Hill, the loop, would be great to pave and finish paving up to Maple Run, Maple something. And then Upper French Hill. Just those are your 3 high traffic locations. The concept of realistically paving all those, probably never going to happen. Talking millions of dollars. The other places that need addressing, you've got St. John's Street. That first 50 feet or so really needs to come out and be repaved. McEwen, which is another one there, as well as is it Crabtree?
Yep.
Those are 3 that really need to be, something needs to happen. The asphalt is so bad in those spots, we can break our plows going in and out of those. So the rest of that money could be used to address those 3 and probably still save money.
Anyone else? I'm looking for board input before I open it up to public. If there's
I'm
no,
curious if we solicit, do we solicit feedback from the neighborhoods ever in these situations, or is it all about road maintenance and convenience?
we were asked at one town meeting, whenever we were to pave new roads that are not paved now, and we were going to pave them, that we did ask for input from the community. But but we have not expanded any paved roads for years because, like I said, we struggle just maintaining the current highways we got.
Yeah. I mean, I just bring that up because I would be very sad to see my road paved, which is Collins Hill.
You probably don't need to worry about it in the near future.
I don't, but I'm just thinking, like, if I feel that way, I'm sure many people who live on dirt roads also feel that way.
And let me just back up what I was saying about turning these other ones back to gravel for now. Both of those roads are class 2. They're both eligible for grant money to pave. If we feel as though we want to go down that road and repave again, it's not like what we're doing is destroying any chance of that. We'd be doing that same process to prep for new asphalt anyway. So if we decide a year down the road that Overhill, just because of the slope, there's an issue and we want to repave it, then Brian and I can go after some grant money to cover paving that. So it's not like my theory is we're doing this, we'll save some money, we can tackle some other projects, but it's not like we're going to waste that $26,000 if we decide to shift gears and pave. It's all part of the process.
Okay. Is the board prepared to put a motion on the table? If not, I'll open it up to the public.
Well, I make a motion that we let Hugh do as he pleases.
I'm not going to take that as an appropriate motion.
He can do his proposal.
Okay,
What his proposal is, that's what I'm making a motion for.
Okay, we do have a motion to authorize the proposal as Hugh has presented. Is there a second?
I'd still like a little more specificity there. Proposal being to return the paved portions of Plot Road and Overhill to gravel. Is that the motion?
Yes,
Oh, thank you. Sorry to be so.
it's actually, the grind, they're gonna grind out the pavement and mix it, with gravel, and they're gonna roll it.
To be reground.
And it's gonna be a real nice product when it's done.
Is there
Is there-
anything that you need to talk with the state about with Overhill? I know it kind of flattens out at the bottom, but if it pitches all down and we have one of these 100-year rainstorms or whatever, and we get washout over 100 C, is the town itself liable for that? Because we took out the asphalt.
No, we've been talking to Jim Coda at VTrans and Rob over at LCPC on some advice about what are our options for changing paving conditions. And I don't believe that there nothing like that has come up, and I don't believe that it would. I don't think anybody's ever going to offer us the guarantee that, we guarantee no one will ever sue you, but nothing
that
like that
road
has come up.
pitches, that intersection pitches away from the road anyway. So we'll be saw cutting at the edge of the right of way, which is 50 feet. So there's not going to be an issue with any sort of scour ending up in the roadway.
Let me remind the board, we have a motion on the floor, but no second.
Oh, yeah, I'll second.
Okay, now we have a second. Any other discussion from board members first?
Yeah, one of my pet peeves is how roads, especially dirt roads, well, paved roads too, for that matter, continue to widen and widen and widen over time. And I don't know the specifics. I can't picture exactly how wide these roads are, at least
24 feet.
But if we could use that as an opportunity to just make sure that we're reining that in if it's a possibility.
I would venture a guess that the footprint will stay exactly the same, 24 feet.
I know the phenomenon you're talking about, Nat, and I don't think either of these locations really exhibit that kind of tendency. I think both of these are pretty standard road size.
Thank you.
Okay, any further board member comments, questions? If not, Brian, let's open it up to public. I see a few hands up.
All right, and up first, we've got Jess Bickford.
Hello, thank you. I'm Jessica Bickford. I'm the chair of the library trustees. And just while you were on the topic of paving, the library parking lot is deteriorating. It's definitely been patched a few times, and just wondering about the possibility of, while there's paving in town, just looking at that feasibility of repaving the library parking lot.
Suggestion, thank you. I'm sure he will take it up under consideration.
Good idea, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. I've got Daryl up next. Okay, Daryl, go ahead.
Hello. I worked for Engineers Construction. We actually were one of the bidders on the reclaiming. You'll end up with a good product by doing those roads if done correctly. The St. John Street, there's a big road project this year going from Johnson to Morrisville. Before you look into St. John Street, you might want to find the limits as where the job starts, because the state will actually pave up into St. John's a ways before the town puts their money into it.
Yeah, good point.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. And Greg Tatro up next.
Hey, good evening, folks. I think the reason that was paved over there, because I remember that road got real muddy in the springtime. And it doesn't matter to me. I come up Footbrook Road to get home, I guess. But I do remember that road being a real disaster in the spring over there. So, and I don't disagree what he was saying. Just I think that's the history over there. So thanks.
Thank you, Greg. You may be
Thank you.
correct on that.
All right. Ann Mullins up next. Go ahead, Ann.
Hi, guys. Raymond's standing here and he said, yeah, Greg, you're right, that the reason they did that was it was a terrible spot and there's a lot of clay in there. So I don't know if that will affect what they want to do, bringing it back to gravel or not.
Yep.
Thanks, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
And thanks, Ray, for.
I think you're going to find that the mixture of the gravel and the asphalt reclaim are going to do a much better job than gravel only, keeping that firm. So I think those are good points. I think short of box cutting that section 2 or 3 feet and putting back a bunch of new material for $100,000, I think this is a pretty safe bet.
I know in the past 5 to 10 years, we've made a number of improvements for drainage around that area also. There's a lot more cross culverts than there used to be. So I don't know that conditions would be the same. All right, Eric Hutchins up next.
Yeah, as someone who drives on that section of Oberhill 100C there every day, I thought I heard Hugh mention that the paved section goes from 100C up to Dukes Road. It's only about the first 50 feet there. There's hardly any of it that is paved there. So I don't know if it's on your map to something different, but it's just a very short portion. And it is a pretty treacherous portion because you got people going 50 miles an hour in both directions there that have to either make the hard right or the quick left there. And because of the loose gravel right there, it often washes onto that short paved section. It makes it pretty treacherous. So I think this is to take up the pavement there and make it dirt seems like a pretty good idea. I just want to make sure you guys have the right distance there before you bid that out, because it's a pretty short section. It doesn't go a quarter of the way up to Dukes Road.
I don't know how long you've paid attention to where that line is, but I found it the other day, and the asphalt is so broken up and disintegrated that it's just short of Duke's Road.
Thank you, Eric.
And I've got Daryl up again. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, it's just one more thing. When companies like us, when we reclaim, you can always put material up on top of the asphalt and like more gravel or more stone, and can be reclaimed in at the same time that you're reclaiming the asphalt if there's not as good material underneath. Just so you know.
Yeah, my numbers budget for a 6-inch shim for both sections if needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've got Ann again. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, so Ray just told me that there's 16 inches of gravel there with fabric.
On Oberhill.
On Oberhill.
The biggest problem I've seen up there is there's no shoulder between the asphalt and the ditch. So everything's pushing into the ditch. Just letting that travel portion push down into the ditch on both sides of the road. That's what's breaking the blacktop all apart.
Yeah, we put money in there for redoing the shoulders, ditch rock lining as needed, check dams as needed, to make sure that we go in and do all of our shoulder and ditch work before we do the reclaim.
You look back in your records, that wasn't done that long ago.
The asphalt or the ditching?
The asphalt, the whole road project right there. It was,
Yeah.
I would say, just guessing, probably 10 years ago. So that shows you, you know, even with what gravel we put in there wasn't enough.
Right.
Okay, we do have a lot on the agenda tonight, and we don't get too deep in the weeds on this. Is there any other board member comments or prepared to go to vote? We have a motion and second to allow Hugh to go forward with his proposal. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it. Go forward, Hugh. Next item, the Joe Brook culvert.
And just one more comment on that. We'll do some research on where we want to spend the rest of the paving project, and we'll consider the library or the paving money that we have budgeted, and we'll consider the library parking lot when we're making that judgment about where that money gets spent and what gets paved. So that'll be on the list, but I don't know at this time what is going to get picked.
That's fair.
All right. Next up, I'm really going to turn this whole one over to Hugh. He was able to attend a meeting with the Lamoille County Conservation, and they had a proposal on a new box culvert. So, Hugh, if you want to take the conversation about Joe Brook.
Sure. So, Lamoille County Conservation, Vermont Fish and Wildlife, DNR, basically local, state, federal level, came to us. They're always looking to improve habitat for fish. And one place that caught their eye was the Joe Brook crossing that's beneath Footbrook up towards Bow, Patch and Evans there. It's currently a 7-foot culvert, metal culvert. They basically told us that they have enough grant money that they're looking to spend that would pay for engineering a new structure, and any match that we might be on the hook for could come in the form of providing area stage material or some trucking, things that we can do that doesn't necessarily involve cash. So it looks to me like they're probably going to engineer some sort of precast box culvert, which could be a $150,000 job. It's like a 60-foot long stretch there. That's a 7-foot culvert. The way I look at it is, if we are ever going to have to replace that out of pocket with another 7-foot culvert, it could be a $25,000 plus project, maybe even more. So the way I look at it is, if they want to replace a culvert that doesn't necessarily need it based on whether it's rotted out or not, and they want to foot the bill, I'm all for it.
Any board members?
Me too, if they keep their word.
This won't impact, would this in any way impact our road structure?
No, it wouldn't do anything but improve things.
Okay.
So I think the question for us tonight is, do we want to ask Hugh to start, continue pursuing this?
Yes, I would say so.
Agreed.
And by continued pursuing this, it means getting a more formal proposal.
Right.
They really just want us to show interest so that they can go through with the engineering. They can use some of their grant money, because it's probably like a $15,000 engineering process. So they're just looking for the town to show that we're on board with this project.
This board is always interested if we can save money for the town. I would say for myself, and I would think that would be the same for all of us.
Okay, is there anyone who has reservations about you going forward? Okay. Go ahead, Hugh. Looks like you got the green light.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gil.
Yeah, thanks, Hugh.
Great job.
Thanks.
You're set with me for tonight, guys.
You're not gonna be here for Scribner?
Oh, do I need? Oh, I didn't realize how much excitement we had on board for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one more. You haven't been especially involved in this one, but I'm sure we'd like to have your opinion on it all the same. So the last thing is, I've been pursuing an engineering study for Scribner Bridge to do assessment on all the repairs and everything that are going to be needed. Again, this is on the bridge, not on the road in front of the bridge. And I've got 2 proposals back. They're included in your packet, around $10,000, one a little over, one a little under. So the first thing is, are we interested in paying for this independently, or do we want to pursue a structures grant to pay for engineering? And then we'll pursue another structures grant to pay for actual repairs. We can pay for it out of pocket, and we'll be a little bit kind of further ahead in line when it comes to requesting funds for making the repairs. Yeah, I'm a little split on this. It's a lot more money than I thought it was going to be, but I still like the idea of undertaking this kind of rapidly rather than waiting longer for state funds to come in. Yeah, I think that's a kind of enough for the first question of, are we interested in doing this out of pocket, or pursuing more grant funds?
Pursue more grant fund.
All right.
Other board members?
Well, kind of want to game that out a little bit. We're going to apply, there's the possibility of applying.
The state is going to be doing class 2 structures grants this year. And as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, they have received more federal aid for state transportation grants. So there is more money in the grant pool that we would be applying for. So it is very likely that we would be selected.
This time, and that's just for the engineering.
Yes.
But then we would be then going back to the well to pursue another grant for construction.
Yes.
But if we don't go for the grant now and we do the work, then it becomes much more likely, because we haven't gone to the well before, that we would get it later.
I don't think of this grant program as likely. They fund pretty much all, well constructed projects. It's timing.
Okay.
They will give us money to help us repair the bridge. If we were able to pay for the study grant ourselves, they would give us construction money sooner, because we wouldn't have dipped into that pot as recently. But there's also the fact that they're getting more federal aid right now, so it's a bigger pot. So we're a little bit less, that delay is shortened a little bit too. So I think, kind of like you said, gaming the system out of like, what is this going to do to us? I think that with the additional funds they're getting, it's going to shorten that waiting period, where we kind of would give other towns and other entities an opportunity to apply for the money. And I don't think we're going to see a big delay between a funded engineering study and a funded construction project.
Okay.
I've spent a little bit of time talking to VTrans about this, but I don't have a grant proposal to present to you tonight, but I've started working on one, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good option. The other thing I'd mention is that we do have the money that the voters had asked us to spend on things like Scribner Bridge. And we also have a little bit of funds last year when the state eliminated Class 2 structures and paving grants. They gave every town a little bit of money instead of funding any grants, and we do have that money as well. So it would not be, raw tax dollars that we're increasing for this to pay for it out of pocket.
Right. So it is advisable to go for the grant for the engineering.
Yeah, I think it's still advisable to go for the grant. That also makes sure that we're part of the process. It could smooth the way if there are any potential hiccups. By participating in the grant program from the very beginning with the project.
So is there any board members who would not want to pursue the grant process and select one of the bids that were submitted? Or do we want to?
Do they have to go hand in hand?
Well, if we selected one of the bids that were submitted, then we would be ahead of the grant process.
Yeah, we can't sign a contract until our grant has been approved.
If we're going to go that route, if we're going to just pay for it ourselves, we could do it tonight.
Okay.
I think I'm hearing from the board members the desire to direct Brian to go forward with a grant process.
Is this, well, I have a question. Is this something that was, like, we have a bunch of money budgeted for bridges and culverts, and there's also a bridge and culvert reserve fund out there. Is the cost of Scribner Bridge at least partially accounted for in that budgeting, in those budgeting lines? Therefore, if we were to pay cash and still go through the grant process, in theory, we could get to a point where we're not spending as much as we had budgeted? Or is that not a fair statement?
Yeah, no, that's a fair statement. We do have a bridge and culvert reserve fund that we could tap into for exactly this.
And we had planned on spending some money out of pocket on this project. This project is just considerably more expensive than I had budgeted for.
I'm looking at the budget right now, and in the general budget, not the reserve fund, there's a $37,000 budget line for, oh, sorry, that is reserve fund. That's reserve fund. And then there's also Bridges contracted services for 2022, which is a $35,000, which means either way, we would have sufficient funds to proceed.
That's going to be, that was intended to be our match for the construction grant. With the idea being that we would receive the construction grant in 2022.
Okay, sorry, I have one more question.
Yep.
There are materials are through the roof, as anyone knows who's doing construction right now. And is that accounted for as part of the projected costs?
To the best of my very limited ability, until we have an engineering study,
I get it. It's a guesstimate either way.
Yeah.
And it's really just for budgeting purposes, because any money we spent would be pulled in on revenue side and spent out on expense side. So it's a money in, money out. It doesn't change our bottom line, what we have to raise for taxes.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Are we all in agreement to ask Brian to go forward with the grant application?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So, and I'm going to take that as your endorsement for me submitting the grant application for an engineering study for a Scribner Bridge. I'm not planning on bringing that up before the board unless you want to see it.
No, I would say that that's pretty routine stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Next
Can I
up,
ask one thing?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Hugh.
Is there going to be a point in time where I can backfill and fix that intersection? Plowing is especially difficult there, the way it is.
Have we heard any more on that money from the state?
Not recently. I'm going to be pursuing reimbursement, or I'm going to be pursuing a decision from FEMA about whether we're eligible for that mitigation funds or not. I don't think that we go another year without, like, I think we fix that this summer, whether we're restoring it to prior conditions or whether we get the money for the mitigation proposal.
Yeah.
I think we don't wait that much longer to make a decision.
And they can just tear it out. If we get the mitigation money, they'll just have to tear out whatever we do. But probably if we get towards the end of the summer, we need to think about making it passable.
Yeah, I don't think we go a whole lot longer without making a decision, but I would like to go a little bit longer than tonight.
It's going to be a significant investment from FEMA to mitigate that, so it doesn't wash out every time we have a high water situation.
Yeah.
But
Eric, do we need to make a choice on the vendor?
No.
not tonight, no.
Okay.
No, it's going to have to go back out to, you know, there'll be a more formal process for it than what I went through to collect these.
Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me for answering for you, Eric. I just kind of threw it out there. Apologize.
Next item up is Planning Commission. For a little background here for some of the newer members, we've always tried and have not been real successful with it, of getting together with the Planning Commission once a year to go over you know, goals and what the town is looking forward, you know, for planning purposes, directions, help give the Planning Commission some directions from the Select Board and what our thoughts are, and basically just to give you guys some direction on where we think that you should be going. Obviously, the last year has been a little bit unusual. You guys have not been meeting very regularly. There's you have like 3 openings on your committee right now. You don't have any projects in front of you, and I think that's part of the reason why we should be here tonight to talk. And I guess, Brian, we may want to unmute all the planning commission members so that we can more or less freely talk here.
All right. Let's see. Paul, Dave, and Greg. I'm gonna have to look for the others. If you know anybody's under a different name, please let me know.
Kylie was under Hill earlier.
Yep, I see Kylie.
Should we do appointments first, or?
They're already appointed. Oh, you mean for the openings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to ask them is, first of all, have you, the planning commission, had the opportunity to meet and get organized yet since the beginning, since town meeting?
Eric,
Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, we're meeting tomorrow night.
Okay. Because one of the things we would normally
Thank
be
you.
looking.
Eric, we're meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
With our-
And you'll be organizing?
I believe, Eric, that tomorrow night Brian is going to run the first meeting.
Brian.
And I would assume that we're going to be organizing and looking for new officers.
Okay. And typically, when we have candidates interested in a position on the planning commission, you guys do a interviewing of the candidates and submit names for our appointing. As I understand it, we have 3 openings and 3 candidates, so it probably is a pretty easy decision there. It would help if you guys were organized. Okay, so if we started just tossing out some of the directions or plans for the planning commission. I know something that we had asked last year of the planning commission was to look at the town sewer district and where it would make sense for the village to extend their lines out into the town further. The village has the interest in it. We have an interest in allowing it if it makes sense. But we, as you are the planning commission for both the town and village, it seemed to make good sense that you guys and a planning board, it makes sense for you guys to take the look at this, the big picture. And as I believe, there was not much progress made on that, probably mostly due to you not being able to meet. That was something that we had asked, but I'll open it up to other board members or planning commission members if you want to speak.
Okay, so I'd like to just throw in some remarks on the meeting schedule. It looks like the planning commission met 3 times last year based on the minutes that are posted on the website. And you know, I know it's been difficult with the Zoom and with the internet connectivity, but there's certainly a quorum that have been able to attend and participate in these Zoom meetings. So I guess I'm hoping that once we sort of get this jump start with talking about priorities tonight, that we can get back into a rhythm where the planning commission is meeting regularly again. I'm wondering if the planning commission has any thoughts or remarks on that.
So Eric, I assume that Paul, you talked about inviting the three people who are volunteers to tomorrow's meeting.
Yes, I did.
So I would assume that if we can talk to those three people, Charles, obviously you have history. That we could recommend them, and when would you guys appoint them to the commission?
Probably our next regular meeting if you're meeting tomorrow night.
Okay.
But to address Nat's point directly, I think it is the intention of the planning commission to begin to meet regularly, monthly again, as we formerly did.
Yeah, that kind of answers my question in two ways. I think he's maybe expressing, yes, they'd like to meet more often, and also that internet connectivity really is a problem. Forgive me if I put words in your mouth, Paul, but you seem to have frozen up.
He's downhill from me in the Davis place, so he doesn't have much connection.
I understand.
A Dixie cup at the end of a string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is the septic project basically the only project you're looking for, Eric, right off?
Well, I know that was one we had asked, well, the trustees had approached us about expanding their territory. They have capacity at the sewer plant, and we had asked the planning commission to take the lead on that. But that was just prior to the whole COVID thing. And you guys were still finishing up on the class 4 highways too.
I just will speak for myself. I feel very in the dark on all of this because I don't know what all the projects are that have been on the list for planning commission, over time. I have the full list of projects, but I don't know which of those apply to planning commission. And we also as a board haven't walked through them all. So I really don't feel like I'm prepared to be part of a conversation about what the planning commission priorities should be personally.
The only two major priorities that we had provided for planning commission was the class 4 roads, highways in the town and looking at them, and the town sewer district area. But they have a lot of other things that they are statutorily required to do, such as the town-wide plan and things of that nature. And maybe, Dave, maybe you want to talk to it. I know you come in very clear. I think we may have lost Paul completely. But.
So I would say internally, the planning commission has two major focuses for tomorrow night's meeting. The first focus would be election of officers, because right now, unless you guys appoint him tonight, Charles is not on the commission. So we are looking for a chairman to lead us. Second one would be meeting the new volunteers and deciding whether we recommend them for appointment to the select board or not. Third on that agenda would be, how do we get together and get started meeting on a regular basis and being productive on finishing the class 4 town road project and starting the septic project. And I believe it's time to start talking to Lamoille County Planning Commission and seeing what's ready or what we need to do to get ready to redo the town and village combined plan. So those would be the big three, I would say.
One of the things I think we need to know, that class 4 road deal, very long process. I thought a few meetings, we'd have that wrapped up and moved on to the sewer, but there's just so much to think about. When you're trying to turn a class 4 road into a trail or keep a class 4 road, I mean, does it stop at a camp? Does it stop at a house? We wanted to make sure that if there was people that had buildings that were lived in, now is a deer camp considered a livable place, or it isn't? So it took us a long time to get through that. The other thing was, we thought about, somebody had a class 4 road and you take it away from them, what's that do to their property values? So that took, boy, I don't know, I wish Paul could talk out there. I don't know how long it took, but it took a long time. And so we didn't get really into the sewer process as much as we'd like. Of course, then COVID hit, and at that point, all hell broke loose. But there was a lot of people, and we agreed on most everything most of the time, but it just took a long time to get there.
I just want to acknowledge it. Kim and Scott, I see your hand. When we open it up for comment, I'll call on you first.
I think that was a hand clap, not a hand raise.
I'm not sure, but I
Is there a difference?
I mean, the class 4 road classification, or reclassifying it into a trail, I think the previous board might have, they wanted to reclassify stuff that was hydrologically connected, so they weren't responsible for maintaining it. Was my high level takeaway on that, which might not have been communicated well. Did you guys look at reclassifying other roads, or was that just a class 4 road thing?
It's just a class 4, Evan, class 4 and trails.
Because there is quite a few short roads around this town that would be interesting to know what could possibly save the town money if they were reclassified as a trail, because we got some roads.
Essentially class 3 private roads like your grandfather's that go a short distance and dead end.
Yeah. But then we have other roads in the town that have multiple citizens that we don't maintain at all.
True.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to know monetary wise what that could possibly save the citizens. I'm sure I'll probably get
So based on the beginning of this, back when I was chairman, the hydrologic connectivity could potentially bankrupt this town. If we had a catastrophic event, that fed off a class 4 town road, it would cost us, it could potentially cost this town a lot of money to fix that. So it's a matter, and this is what the planning commission struggled with back then. It's a matter of what values are you adding, what values are you taking away, what values are you protecting, and how do you balance all that? Like Battle Row has private citizens living on a class 4 town road with year-round residences. Up above me up here, in what we've always called Hooterville, there's year-round residences on a class 4 town road. If we take that designation away from them, what happens to them? What happens to their insurance? What happens to their potential mortgages? It's not an easy subject.
I think that was maybe the most important said tonight is the whole class 4 road issue, and Greg highlighted it too. It's not an easy subject. It is very complicated because of the impacts it has, like Dave just mentioned. And yet the potential cost to the town, if the state holds us to the hydrologically connected issue with stormwater, it could break the town. So that is, that's why we're looking at it. That's why we're having the discussion.
I mean, we took a few Saturdays and walked or drove these roads that we thought we could turn into trails. And, we looked at all the culverts, we looked at the runoff, we looked at whether it was a brook was running beside it. And I'm sure Paul took better notes than I did, but we did our homework. We went out there and we thought, well, where is it that we could save the town some risk? Because that's what it comes down to, is risk. And then then you got to look at the people that have camps or houses. It can't be all about the town. I think we came up with a pretty good ending, but we put some time into it, but it was a tough one. There's no question. So we had some members of the community come on a couple of those rides and give us their opinion on things, and we listened, and I think we made some pretty good decisions, but definitely wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was like a slam dunk, boom, boom, you'd be done. But no, there was a lot of conversation, and it was good conversation. Everybody had good points of views, and the board did their job well. They listened and looked and prodded, and we did everything. And I was pretty proud of that board, actually.
May I? I'm just curious how much is left, because I hear it talked about both in past tense and we still have work to do. How much work is left? In terms of, I understand like making the decisions is not done. I get all of that necessarily, but in terms of like the study and the proposal, I know you've submitted a proposal, but I hear about loose ends still, and I'm just curious, what is the perspective of the members of the Planning Commission at this point? Have you gone as far as you can?
If I remember correctly, we submitted the proposal and then the select board sent it back with things they wanted us to look at. And I don't think we've looked at those things yet.
All right, thanks, Rob.
I think that's correct too, Rob.
The select board told me in one of the select board meetings that they were going to redline our report and give it back to us. They never did that. I don't know if they still want to or not. And just listening to Eric's introduction, he used the past tense. So is it done? Yes or no? In terms of the select board's opinion. And if it's not done, is the select board are the select board members going to read it, redline it, and give it to us so that we know what direction to take? Or excuse me, so that the planning commission knows what direction to take.
Yeah, the select board has not had the opportunity to sit down and deep dive into this. And we would have to take the report that the planning commission provided, as well as the report that we've received from LCPC that goes into the stormwater element of it. And I think both of them got to be put together to come up with the full plan for the class 4 highways. And we've just not had the opportunity to do any of that. By fall time, we're into our budget, and here we are already after town meeting. So yes, the planning commission did submit a report to the select board. We had asked for some more work to be done on the stormwater runoff issue. That had not been done yet.
Hey, Eric, can I make a suggestion that maybe we could carve out some time where the select board or a representative from the select board would sit down with the planning commission and then I bet we could answer a lot of those questions if we work together for a short time. Get it finished up instead of hashing it back and forth. It could take months. And if you guys really want it done, I think we could do it.
Have you guys been able to review the report that came from LCPC that addressed the stormwater runoff issues? They did a study that was all encompassing of class 4 and all of our highways, but it does have the class 4 element in it.
That was titled the road erosion inventory.
I think
I distributed copies of that. The problem with that report was they had code numbers that we didn't understand how to attach to specific portions of each road.
I understood that working with Rob Moore at LCPC, Doug had decoded that and found exactly which parts of class 4 roads were part of that, were hydrologically connected.
So then that's done.
No, that's not done. Just because he knows where they are, that doesn't mean that that has incorporated into the final report of the Planning Commission. You're saying that you don't know where those things are, so you can't include them into your report, but
Oh, it can be included. That's not difficult if it's done. It just needs to be, that's administrative. Doesn't take much deliberation on our part.
it might not, or it might if you realize what, I mean, I think Doug's assertion was that there are only 7, and I'm doing this from memory from a long time ago, but Doug's assertion was that there weren't a whole lot of hydrologically connected segments of the roads in which the Planning Commission had wanted to throw up. And therefore, with the new information, that perhaps if the Planning Commission were to see that and realize it, that they might amend their report to not throw up quite so many roads, because they actually wouldn't be all that expensive to hold on to. I'm again, I don't know the specifics of that, but I think that's where we had come out on that.
So Eric, if I may.
Go ahead, Dave.
I would say the focus is to get through an organizational meeting tomorrow and get started.
I would agree.
And some of this looks like we need to back up a little bit on class 4 town roads and regroup. And I would say the most important thing is to get the Planning Commission reorganized, get it into full membership if we can, and start rock and rolling in regular meetings. So specifics don't mean much tonight.
I would agree. It's more of a general discussion. I think Paul was trying to raise his hand. Or we just froze up again.
Paul's frozen.
So while we're waiting, can I, or hopefully Paul comes back.
I was trying to, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
Well, I could.
Yeah, I heard him for a second there.
Must be a moose ran across his front yard.
So I think there seems to be a little bit of confusion. I've heard some different things from different people randomly in the community about what the membership is and exactly who's appointed and who hasn't been appointed. I'm looking at the town report right now. I see that there are 6 slots with terms, which were occupied by Kim and Charles. Those terms have expired. Kim Cottonor, Rob Rodriguez, Paul Warden, and Dave Butler have been appointed with terms expiring in 2022 or 2023. And then there are two others listed there, Kylie Hill and Greg Tatro, appointed but without terms. So I'm wondering, clearly what, who's a member and who isn't, and what's it mean that they're appointed without terms?
It means we're gonna be there forever.
Yeah,
Okay, I like that plan. Good, thanks, Rick.
yeah, Brian, Rosemary, you know what happened there?
They had served, they were appointed mid-term, kind of midstream, and were making up for replacements from folks that had either moved away or were unable to finish their term.
Right.
And they should have been replaced after they should have been assigned a end of term after they had completed, kind of the next town meeting. And that was not correctly assigned in this last town report.
So we
The
need
town
to,
report before this, I believe that it was listed correctly because they were appointed midstream. Now they completed a year, they should have term dates assigned to them.
Okay, so do we know what those dates are?
They were appointed to fill terms that expired in 2020.
Okay, so they've already been reappointed last year.
Yeah.
and-
They were not reappointed at the appointment meeting directly following the town meeting. Whether they were subsequently reappointed, I don't know. But not at the town meeting immediately following, or excuse me, not at the select board appointment meeting immediately following the town meeting.
a few weeks ago,
No, a year ago.
a year ago.
2020.
Okay. So
At that meeting, we just appointed the slate and we didn't assign them properly a term end date
They
or
weren't
a
on.
term to fill.
okay, so
I'm sorry, Charles, go ahead.
can we just clean
The
that up?
meeting following the 2020 town meeting, you reappointed Dave Butler, Rob Rodriguez, and Paul Warden. You didn't reappoint a slate.
Okay, can I make a suggestion? Because we're gonna be, it sounds like, making appointments for the open seats in 2 weeks or whatever. Let's just clean this up, figure out what those terms were supposed to be. How do we get those back in sync with if they were appointed in 2020, let's just get them back in sync with the terms. Does that make sense?
Rosemary,
That
Brian,
makes sense to me.
do you have that information? You must have it somewhere, right? What term?
Ask Rosemary to unmute.
Yeah, I think when you appointed them the second time, I don't think you put term limits on it.
Okay, what is their typical term length?
Usually 2 or 3 years.
Okay, and because we have staggered terms, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess for our next meeting, if you can have that in front of us of what we should appoint them for, as well as any other appointments for the planning commission after the planning commission has looked at the candidates. And we
Planning
can-
commission has enough appointed members right now. Oh, because they don't have a term, doesn't matter. Never mind, sorry.
Right now, they have 4 correctly appointed members.
They have enough for a quorum. I mean, that's what really matters, right?
Well, if there's only 4 members, three would make a quorum.
All right, hold on. I'd like to get a ruling from either Brian or Rosemary. Are Kylie Hill and Greg Tatro currently on the planning commission?
I think it's correct to regard them as being appointed, but they're not properly appointed because they should have been appointed to a particular term. I think the remedy for that is to regard them as appointed and then assign them a term.
So we'll assign.
It's not perfect. We didn't appoint them properly. But I think that the best remedy is not to kick them off the planning commission, make them start over again. It's just to regard them as appointed and give them a term limit.
Okay, I just wanted some clarity on that. I think that does it. Thank you.
let's see, it sounds like we're wrapping up for tonight. Just appreciate the planning commission coming in. If there's any further planning commission members or select board members that want to add anything else, ask any questions, or shall we open it up for any public comments?
I do have one more thing. I got an email from one of the interested parties who wanted to join the planning commission. She has withdrawn her name. She was interested in taking another volunteer position and has decided since that she would rather not take another volunteer position. So we do have 3 open seats and 2 requests. So if we can get another person, we've got a great deal of attendance tonight. I see 55 people online tonight. If we can just get one more of them to join the planning commission, we'll have filled that seat. All right, that's my little plug for another volunteer.
See one hand up from Athena.
I'm going to check in with Scott and I'll get Athena while I look for Scott.
Well, Scott was supposed to go first, I thought.
I don't see him on my screen anymore.
Okay.
So I'm going to put up Athena and Shane while I look for Scott and Kim.
Hi, thank you. This is Shane. I am one of the interested parties, and I just wanted to let Paul, if he's still on, know that I'm going to be working the polls tomorrow night for the village meeting, so I'm not going to be able to make the meeting, but I will link up with you, Paul, or other members of the planning commission to hopefully come up with you soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shane and Dave. I'm hoping somebody, or Kylie, somebody will pass that along. Don't expect Shane there, but he's still interested.
I can text that. I can text that to Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, and I've got Scott and Kim now.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
we can.
Kim.
Loud and clear.
It's the Kim of the Scott. I'm just checking in on the class 4 road issues and wanted to share, especially for Beth, the bigger picture. I'm hoping that all the new select board members get a copy of the class 4 stuff that we had done so far. But I think the bigger picture is having the policy piece of it and being able to see that right now the action that would be needed is to get something in the budget that would allow the priorities of class 4 roads to be acknowledged and looked at and said, oh, yep, we need landowners who have class 4 roads that have issues to get some monies to start to proactively solve some of the issues that could wreck the roads in if there was a big storm, and being able to have their condition of them. And I know there was a lot of work done on some of them back this fall. I actually saw a great deal of good things happening. So I think it's one of the things we said is have the road foreman out there looking at what roads need.
We just lost Scott and Kim again. We got disconnected.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye out to see if they rejoin.
Is there anybody else had their hand up?
I don't see anyone else.
Okay. Give him
Daryl has his hand up.
Okay, Daryl.
Go ahead, Daryl. Daryl might be having some trouble unmuting.
Hello?
Go
yes,
ahead.
We can hear you now.
I live on a class 4 road, drag lot road. And there's only 2 driveways off of mine and another one I don't know much about the policies that are going on right now, but I've never been able to receive any help on keeping that road maintained. It's only 100 feet long at the top. Where is it that I can look up to see what is supposed to be happening with these roads?
Currently, the town's ordinance does not allow for any town maintenance on class 4 highways other than what's statutorily required. And that would be bridges or culverts.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to read the current policy, it is available on our website under documents and policies.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Daryl. Let me look for Scott again. Okay, I see Scott and Kim again. Let's try that.
There you go. You're out.
We're back again. I don't know what's been said.
We're just waiting for you.
Okay. Yeah, just overall that the policy that we threw out there would be worth looking at, even if all the details of the different roads haven't been figured out, because the budget got passed, and that was, I thought, the important piece was being able to make a policy that would designate a certain amount of money and a priority to the people who are putting forward that their roads that they need the support. And some of it might not be monetary. Some of it might just be, hours of the front loader smoothing something out or digging a ditch, or it could be something that if we were proactive would be very simple. And the other piece that I wanted to check in with, I had written Brian an email about, someone had mentioned a piece of the energy enhancement part of our plan that was worked pretty hard on, may or may not be worth looking at, but it was a one public meeting that was said to be missing. I never heard back on what happened to that and whether that would actually make our energy enhanced chapter viable or not. And by not finishing it, it was a sad thing. So just being able to follow through with making sure that they are done and in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, to answer your question, I was able to locate a record of both of the second public hearing. It looks like nothing was really, nobody showed up to either public hearing, so there wasn't a whole lot of documentation for them. But we did publish notices for both meetings.
Great, so that should be viable. Whoops.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have no record of one of the meetings.
There is nothing reflected in the minutes for that meeting, but in the other meeting, it's recorded that nothing was said. In the second meeting, nothing is recorded. But I think that that's an indication that nothing was said.
No, if you don't open a meeting and close it, you didn't have a meeting, whether something is said or not. You open the meeting and you ask for comments, you close. No comments are heard, you close the meeting. You keep a record of those two things. But if there's no record, who's to say that the meeting was really held?
Was
I mean,
it
if
an
there's no
agenda?
record,
Was it on the agenda?
I'd have to look. I don't want to.
Let's do this because we shouldn't be just rehashing all this for the next 10 minutes. Let's just, Brian, would you do us a favor and just please make sure that that happened properly? And if it didn't, then we'll revisit it.
All right.
Okay. If we have no further public comments, I guess we'll be looking for some guidance from the Planning Commission for our next regular meeting. Hopefully we'll have another candidate for you as well. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to the COVID-19 adaptation.
All right. So a number of things that we've done to accommodate for COVID-19 were undertaken by the prior select board. So I think it's really appropriate for our current select board to have an opportunity to make any modifications or affirm their support of kind of whatever the current select board wants to do about it. What brought this on was a discussion about leave and pay. Currently, what the prior select board had adopted and what we've been acting under is if somebody has to take a leave of absence due to an unintentional exposure to COVID-19, that during that period where they cannot return to work, we've been paying them and we haven't required them to use their leave hours for that. The thought was that we wanted to incentivize people to report that they'd been potentially exposed and not come into the office or garage and potentially expose other employees. So I'm kind of looking for
some
want to make
direction.
changes to that, or do we want to keep going?
What's the select board's pleasure there?
I think it's the right thing to do.
Beth?
I think it's the right thing to do. I think that we want people not to expose others, and it's the right thing to do.
Mike?
How many times has this happened?
2 times in the garage and 1 time in the office, and no, 2 times in the office.
So this is for potential exposures, right?
Yes. And
So-
presumably if somebody was sick, we would also require, not, if you're sick with COVID, it's not taken out of your time.
And there's been 2 times in the garage, or 2 times in the office, 1 time in the garage.
2 times in the garage, and I think 2 times in the office, but there might have been a 3rd time. I don't remember definitively. Rosemary, do you recall?
Yeah, it's been 3 times in the office.
3 times, okay.
That's over the last year. So that's
Yeah.
not
Well,
like it.
And it's been no positive cases. It's just been people taking leave because they had been potentially exposed to a positive case.
Yes.
The office personnel, did they do any work from home, Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay. So that makes a big difference right there.
Is there a list of training programs, online stuff that the road crew could be doing? I'm not saying bring them in, but just go home until we get your test results, when you could actually be doing your OSHA 10 or something like that, if the town's paying for it anyways.
That's a good idea. A lot of them are on.
Hazmat, work, cleanup, anything.
Yeah.
If you could have a list of those videos or online things for them to do, they come back in with a certification certificate.
Outstanding.
I think that we've used those. I believe that we used 1 course, but there wasn't any process for it. I think it was just, hey, we're doing this training anyway, and you're home now, so just attend from home. But I don't think we've really adopted that. That's a really good idea.
Outstanding. They should be spending 8 hours online classroom.
So is the board still in support of that policy?
Provided that they do online classes.
Or
If
work from
available.
home.
Yeah, or work from home.
If available.
Yes.
Well, there's tons of online classes you can find.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for that, or?
Was that formally voted on last time?
It was, the board had voted to adopt
Okay.
that.
Is there other things you're gonna bring up?
That's the big one for, like our personnel. The other ones are, that the town office is remaining closed, except by appointment.
Did that wall ever get put up?
There's a plexiglass.
The plexiglass gate, it did not get put up. We've got to chase down a contractor and a vendor to put up the plexiglass.
Well, that was supposed to have been done a long time ago, and we were supposed to have the office open, as I recall.
Yep. It was, and we tried to get them to come back out a few times. They didn't. And then it looked like we weren't opening. So spending time on hold with contractors didn't seem like a great use of time when we had other things to do and we weren't opening the office anytime soon.
Well, I get a lot of people either call me or text me and ask me when that office is going to open, and a lot of other offices are open. You can go to the bank now, for crying out loud. So we need to start figuring a way how we can open up our office again.
I believe it's still under governor's mandate that municipal offices are closed. Is that wrong, Eric?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's still under the governor's order or not. They're certainly discouraging any opportunity to gather or expose yourself.
You can go to any store in the state of Vermont, for crying out loud. You can go to any bank now.
But I think we're trying to protect our employees as well as individuals from the public, because it is a very small space, as you all are aware.
And I
to get
think
very, very small.
As I recall from some discussions with health and safety, that the plexiglass shield is helpful, but the way our air circulates, anybody in that vestibule in front of there, that air gets recirculated into the rest of the office, regardless of a shield. The shield is helpful because it will block anybody from coughing right on you, but the air will still be shared between spaces.
And anybody that needs to get in the office, all they need to do is call, and Rosemary can set it up, and we have authorized for one person to come in the office from the public. So if they need to look at records or what have you, they can get in. If they just want to come in and socialize, no, that's not going to happen.
Look at the reported new cases of COVID over the past year. We're currently at 244. A year ago, we were at 40. So this isn't the time to let our guard down.
So Brian, why don't you go down through the full slate of items, and then we'll look at trying doing this one in one motion.
Okay. Then we've got, right now we're working with, for outdoor recreation, we're working with Lisa and the emergency management team, and kind of handling that as a case-by-case basis for outdoor sports. That's as with the directive of having as much engagement as we can, but still protecting people. We are, let's see, indoor municipal facilities have been closed. So we're not allowing the seniors or any other groups to use the municipal building. Holcomb House is closed to the public. And I think that's everything I've got.
Okay, is there pleasure with the board on making a motion to ratify all of those processes and procedures set in place currently? And obviously that can change.
Do you know if the, it's off topic, is the highway department still taking the tandems home?
I don't believe that they currently are.
Okay.
I'd have to check with you to say for certain, but as I understood that, that was really just an accommodation that was being made during the winter when we had somebody who was out on leave because of a potential exposure to COVID-19. And we really had too much work to do where we really couldn't keep them at home without, bringing them in for some assistance. So we had instituted the temporarily send equipment home so that you can, come in and do the work and you never need to share space with anybody else.
So for now, I guess I'd motion to stay the same, but with the addition that if you can work from home, be it instructional videos, paperwork or whatever, it's expected of you. If you can't, it is what it is.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second that. I'll second that
We have
one.
motion and second. Any more discussion?
I do a member of the public when we're ready for it.
If there's no any concerns or questions from the board, let's open it up to the public.
Okay, Ann?
Unmute. Oh, I just wanted to say, if you do plan on opening the office back up anytime soon, could you make it after May 14th?
Geez, I wonder what's going to happen May 14th.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments from the public, I'll look, and it's the board's pleasure. I'll look for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it. Appointment of Conservation Commission.
Sorry, I want to circle back to that.
Okay.
And this is a kind of last minute addition that I was just thinking about. I was just thinking about it honestly, because personally, I was able to make my appointment to get my vaccination shot myself today. So I'm looking forward to having that getting that done in a couple weeks. We had made the accommodation for flu shots when we couldn't get anybody to come out to the office to administer flu shots like we usually do. We said that we would, you could take paid time to get the flu shot in, I think we said Morrisville or Cambridge at the health center there. Would we think about extending something similar to folks going out for the COVID-19 vaccination?
Oh, if they get a scheduled appointment slot and it's going to be during their work hours?
Yeah.
What's the board's pleasure?
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that if you're vaccinated and you come in contact, you do not have to quarantine? So if every employee was vaccinated, all that stuff that we just made a motion for would be pointless anyways.
I'd want to check the rules before I confirm that or not.
I know there's I think, as I recall, the latest executive order has been multiple people can congregate if they've all been vaccinated, or if only one household is not vaccinated, can meet with maybe it's one other one, or with people who have been vaccinated. And
Well, it's not unlimited, right? Like,
right,
you
no.
You can have two households that have been, 2 or 3, I forget, that have been vaccinated that can get together, but you can't have like many households who've been vaccinated getting together is still restrictions.
And I'm gonna ask that we open it up to Scott, because I know he knows this a lot more in depth than I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see Scott's hand and he's the expert I'd turn to, so.
Keeps clapping, but he's actually trying to raise his hand. I
Yeah.
made a mistake.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, I don't have the brain power apparently for this computer. Don't hold that against me. So the last version I read is if you're vaccinated and it's over 2 weeks, you can go play with other vaccinated people who have gone through the 2-week period. But there's this weird little caveat. And if you have kids in your household, it may not count because the epi data really isn't in yet for transfer of the virus with vaccinated people. So until they figure that out, I think that little loophole, it's not even a little loophole, it's that little sentence in the health data sort of brings that up. So you're good to go unless you have kids. And then if you have kids, it's still social distancing and masking.
And I think almost all of our highway department has kids.
Yeah. And that
that
may
would-
change. I think the concern is, you know, when we started all this out, obviously we're at really super low numbers and there wasn't 5 variants, and 2 of those variants are now in Vermont, and B117 is the one that everybody's nervous about, and it's here and it's growing. So I'm not sure how that's gonna affect that part. I don't think anybody has a good grasp on it yet until there's data, you know, people getting ill and transferring of the virus. I don't think that'll change anytime soon until the numbers are in.
Nat?
So to the question that Brian's asking, without getting really deep down into the nitty gritty, just sort of high level,
Yeah.
the more we get vaccinated, the more people are vaccinated, the sooner we get vaccinated and herd immunity, the faster we get all of this baloney behind us, the faster we can open things up, the faster we don't have to worry about any of this anymore. It's a great idea to incentivize people to get vaccines by giving them an hour off of work if in the middle of the workday if they need it. So I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Nat said too. I mean, that's the goal. You know, getting a needle stick in the arm and getting the vaccine. I think Lamoille County is at 40%, and that's started, not necessarily finished. And herd immunity, depending on who you talk to, is anywhere between 75 and 85%. Before we can really start relaxing a little bit more. But I mean, it's not too far away if you think about it. If people can just sort of hang in there for another month, I think the numbers will start dropping. And we can start actually talking to people again in person. So hang in there.
That'll be scary.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It should be noted that this is not mandatory for our employees. If they want to have a vaccine, they can, but we're not mandating them to do it.
Right. Obviously, we can't mandate it.
Well, some people think they can.
I don't know, Scott, if you saw the CDC's, what they came out with tonight, but the British variant, they're saying seems to be spread quickly among young people.
Yeah, our demographic in Vermont is the age group between 20 and 29 is the highest growing group right now. It used to be the 40 to 50, and it's been shifting ever slowly, and now it's just sort of blowing up in that age group. So
they were saying school children and on organized teams and stuff like that. There's quite a spread that's happening now.
yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I know Eric Hutchins has got his hand up too.
Yep. Okay, Eric, go ahead.
I wanted to second what Evan said. He was making a point that once people are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, then if they come into contact with a COVID positive individual, if they are asymptomatic, they do not have to quarantine. That's the process we're following in the school district right now. So giving people, incentivizing people to get that prevents them from missing work for quarantine purposes. And I also want to second what Mike said too, in that, you know, we got so many changing factors, and I really appreciate the caution that the town has showed about restricting this for a long time, but things are changing pretty rapidly, and in towns right next door to us, things are being done quite differently. And a lot of places are opening up, and I know people have mixed feelings about that, but when people are vaccinated and are masking, you know, I think cautiously reevaluating what's going on is something we're going to have to do on a minute to minute basis. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, as I gathered from the board discussion, we are in support. And I'm not sure if we want to have a formal vote on that. We would support providing time off for getting the COVID-19 shot.
Wasn't a motion made and seconded, Mr. Chairman?
Not for this particular item.
No, this was a late addition that.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Does the board want to make such a motion authorizing that time?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passed. Conservation Commission.
All right. So we had a vacancy on the Conservation Commission. 2 people had applied, and Conservation Commission is recommending the appointment of Peter Hammond. I see Lois on. I don't think Peter was able to make it tonight.
Evening, Lois.
Hi, everybody.
Lois, thank you for joining us.
I just want to clarify, Peter Hammond was actually the only person who applied. The other person had expressed an interest apparently on Facebook or someplace. And so I had sent her a follow-up, and at this point she wasn't interested. But she's going to attend some of our next meetings, which is nice. Peter attended a meeting, and he subsequently did some follow-up research on conservation commissions, which I was quite impressed with. The board voted unanimously to ask that you folks appoint him. So I hope you will.
Okay. Thank you, Lois. What's the board's pleasure?
So moved.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it. Appointment to Racial Justice Committee.
All right. So Racial Justice Committee has been contacted by, they've got 1 open seat, and they've been contacted by 3 interested parties. And the Racial Justice Committee is making the recommendation for the appointment of Sophia Berard.
Okay, is there someone here to speak to it?
Eric, I'm going to unmute for you.
I don't know if I need to refresh people's memory, but we made a unanimous recommendation at the last select board meeting to appoint Sophia Berard to this position. And I believe there was some concern about process. Somebody wanted it announced on the agenda. So that was done, I believe, for this meeting. And Sophia is at all the meetings, and I think our recommendation from the last meeting stands.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
Rick has his hand up, and I don't know if he was planning to speak
Okay,
to this.
maybe Rick wants.
Yeah, Rick is the chair of the committee. So, okay, Rick, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So there were also 2 other applicants. One was Alyssa Gutierrez, I think, was, if I'm saying it correctly, and the other was Anne Marie Barr. When I sent out the agenda, I sent out replies to the two of them. Anne Marie did get back to me and said she couldn't attend the meeting, and she had a couple of other volunteer opportunities she was interested in. And I never heard back from Melissa, so she did not attend the meeting. And we went back to our previous motion and we reaffirmed our motion, which we had made when there was only Sophie, who was in contention for appointment. So at this point, yes, at our meeting on April 1st, we reaffirmed our recommendation to appoint Sophia Berard. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to appoint Sophia Berard to the Racial Justice Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is for Rick Opperly.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, is he been unmuted?
I can unmute him.
Okay. So I'm reading the minutes here, or the agenda, and it says the Racial Justice Committee has been contacted by 3 interested parties. Did they actually have an interview, or they were just contacted, Rick?
There was no interview when like I said, when the agenda went out, I contacted Anne Marie and Alyssa with the agenda for the meeting and said, if you cannot attend the meeting, let me know. Anne Marie contacted me and said she could not attend the meeting and she had a previous engagement. So my response to her was, and that she said she was interested in other volunteer opportunities. So I took that under consideration. I discussed that at our April 1st meeting. I never heard back from Alyssa as to whether she could attend the meeting or not. If in my request, it was, if you cannot attend the meeting, let me know. And then on the night of the meeting, Alyssa did not participate. So the committee made the recommendation based on who was available and who was at the meeting. And that was Sophia.
Okay.
Sophia she's been a really excellent member of the Tuesday Night Live committee. She's been a terrific member of the Bread Oven committee, and she's attended every one of the Racial Justice Committee meetings. So I can't imagine what more we would want from a candidate or a new member. So.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations, Sophia. And Racial Justice Committee banner.
All right. The second proposal from the Racial Justice Committee is to purchase and permanently hang a Black Lives Matter banner on the municipal building or on municipal property. And I think it's to be read that the assumption here is that we would work with the village on coordinating that, or failing cooperation from the village to do something on solely town-owned property.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll jump in first, if I may.
Go ahead.
Please.
I think I just want to start by talking a little bit about what Black Lives Matter. I'll try and be brief. What Black Lives Matter, what I think Black Lives Matter means, and what I think that movement is about. Because over the last few years, we've been hearing this slogan, and I've been trying to learn more about what people mean when they say Black Lives Matter. And when I try and learn more, I learn things like some interesting things, such as our state's prison population is disproportionately Black. Less than, somewhere around 1.5% of our total population in Vermont is Black. But over 11% of our prison population is Black. That's a pretty big disparity. And that's mimicked nationwide. Statistically, Black people are much more likely to get pulled over by the police. That's all over the state. It's all departments. Black drivers are 4 times as likely to get searched by the police as white people. And yet there's, looking at history, less likely to be in possession of contraband. And you can go on about school expulsion rates. Black children tend to be expelled more often than white children. Home ownership rates, there's a disparity just across all sorts of segments in society. And I think there might be a reaction when people say things like that, just say, well, you're saying all cops are racist, or you're saying is that it's not that all cops are racist. It's not that most cops are racist. It's way more complicated than that. I think when I hear Black Lives Matter, what I hear is people saying that there are these really major injustices in our society, all over our society, not more in Johnson than other places in America, but we're not immune to it. That these injustices are alive and active in our society. They're a detriment to us all. And that these issues do matter. It matters that we pay attention to these things and that we try and do better. And when we say, those issues don't matter, or we don't want to pay attention to them, we don't want to, that's when Black people and allies stand up to say, Black Lives Matter. And so that's what that means to me. So I'd be in support of raising this banner.
Okay. Any further board member comments?
I think I'm gonna wait to the end. I have comments, but I don't want to give them right now.
Okay. Well, I guess we can open it up for public input.
We don't even have a second, Mr. Chairman.
No, we have no motion.
I thought a motion was made.
No.
Okay.
So we'll open it up for public comment. I see at least one hand's already come up.
All right, now.
This weekend, and we are on complete, total opposites politically. And I figured he was totally against anything I was for. And he asked me what was going on with the Black Lives Matter in Johnson. So we had a discussion about it. And he said, who has the right to put anything like that on a taxpayer paid building without taxpayer approval? And I said, that's been my point all along, is that I don't believe it belongs on municipal property. I believe if anybody wants to put it on their own property, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I'm in support of the movement for Black Lives Matter. I am not in support of the Black Lives Matter organization. I believe that they are a radical political organization who does nothing to help the Black people in this country. You can ask Black people what they're getting out of that organization, and I'm sure they will all tell you nothing. I just found it interesting that my son, who is so liberal, it's unbelievable, would feel that way. The same way that I feel, that we have a right to say what happens with the property in this town because we pay for it, we as taxpayers. And for a few people in the town to push their agenda forward without considering anybody else's feelings is just unjust to me. And I hope that the board does not support this. I think that if you want to do something like this, it needs to go before the voters in this town, not just a specific bunch of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. I've got Eric up next. Go ahead, Eric.
Thanks. Thanks, Ann, for your comments. I think it's helpful that everybody is honest and expresses themselves in these meetings. And it's honestly, it's kind of the point of putting up these displays and talking about them. You had a conversation with your son about this, and now you're talking to the select board about it. And people are expressing each other's thoughts on this. And I know it's hard sometimes, and it can take a lot out of us, but I think we're all reaching a better understanding of where everybody stands on these things. And maybe we're listening and learning a little bit along the way. So I think that's really good. I will say that your point about, putting these displays up on public property, that the taxpayers should have a say on this. And I couldn't agree with you more, which is why the taxpayers vote for a democratically elected select board that spends all kinds of taxpayer money and makes all kinds of policies of things to do on, with, and for public property. So I think that's a good point. If everyone in this town was against putting these kind of displays up, it would be the wrong thing to do. But it's my sensation, talking to people at Johnson, and maybe I'm wrong, is that people think this is a good thing to do because it shows that our town is welcoming of all people. And all of Nat's comments about how, there's 400 years of discrimination against Black and brown people. And just to put up a banner that says, we get it, we understand, and this town is going to do our best not to continue that tradition, I think makes people feel more welcome. And I think it's what our town would want to do. I respect that other people disagree with me, and I think that's fine. But that's the point of these displays, is to show us to be a welcoming, inclusive place, and also to start these conversations that are kind of tough for people to have. And I appreciate people's honesty, and I appreciate people listening to me, even though they don't agree with me. And I promise I'll listen to other people, even if I don't agree with them, and we can maybe reach some common ground on these things. But I think there's a lot of good reasons to put up these kind of displays for the good of our town, for the future of our town, for welcoming new businesses, new people, tourists. It's a good thing for everybody. It's not just a thing for Black and brown people. And I know that there's a lot of information about this being some kind of radical, crazy group, but in our community, that's not what this stands for, right? This is not inciting anybody to burn any property, right? Like, this is in our community here in rural Vermont. This flag means something very different than what you've seen from the most radical people in the most radical corners of the world. And I stand by that. And I sincerely hope that the select board passes this resolution and acts on this. I think it's good for our town on multiple levels. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Eric. All right, next up, I've got Hiram. Okay, go ahead, Hiram.
Hey, I really don't think it should be on any town property, and most of you guys know that we've already volunteered our property down in the town to put, Black Lives Matter flag on there to support the town and to support everyone who would like to have a Black Lives Matter flag in our town. So wouldn't that compromise everyone's point of view and support it and not have it on any of our town property? That's pretty much all I need to say.
Thank you, Hiram.
Thank you, Hiram.
All right, Daryl, I've got you up next. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yes, my feeling is that it shouldn't go on town property, and especially when you say permanently affix it. And to Eric's words of, we selected the select board to make these decisions. Think worst case scenario for you, the select board had a group of individuals on it, and they got together and they're like, we're going to hang a Confederate flag off the municipal building. And I say this because you said the select board should make these decisions, not the townspeople. So now you would end up with a group of individuals in the select board that say, hang a Confederate flag, and there was no repercussions. So I think saying permanent and not allowing the townspeople to vote kind of puts on a slippery slope. It could anyways.
All right. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you, Daryl.
And then I've got Athena up next. Okay, go ahead, Athena.
Hi, everybody. So I just want to remind folks, and this isn't to take away from the flag that's being put up. I think the banner should absolutely be put up. I'm in full support of it. If it came on a special ballot, I would vote for it. We do already have a Black Lives Matter flag on, it's technically village property, and I, as a former trustee, haven't gotten any complaints about that. I don't know about any other trustees, but it's been pretty silent across the board. Obviously, this banner would probably be a bit more visible because it would be bigger and it would be on a building, so there'd be less sort of like flying around in the wind, which I think is a good idea. And I had something else I wanted to say, and that was I'm grateful for the Racial Justice Committee, and I'm really excited for the next steps we have here to addressing this in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Athena.
Thank you.
Brian, before we start allowing people to speak a second time, is there anyone else raising their hand?
There's no one else who has raised their hand. Let's give it just a second if there's anybody else who wants to speak a first time before we loop back around. Okay, I see Jackie with her hand up. And Anne, thank you for your patience while we give everybody a chance to go first.
Thanks, Brian. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I just want to say I do agree with this proposal. I think I agree with Eric, and I just wanted to say that Eric Hutchins is a member of the Racial Justice Committee. He's not just a random person. He's the vice chair, I believe, of the committee. But I do agree with Nat and Eric and Athena very much. I think this is a really positive thing. Black Lives Matter is an affirmation, and to have this affirmation at the seat of our government, I think is a really positive thing for our town, and that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Jackie.
All right. I do see a few more hands from people who go in the first time, so I will get back to you soon, Anne. But I've got Diane up next.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes,
go
we
ahead.
can.
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know that Portia Foss wrote an opinion piece in the News and Citizen. She's a citizen in our town. She wrote the best opinion piece saying that Black Lives Matter, if a flag or a banner were flown, she would feel much safer in this town, and so wouldn't a lot of other people. When we were demonstrating the past few years, we would put up Black Lives Matter signs, and people of color who would go past us would say, we feel much safer seeing you guys out here. So that is, to me, real evidence that something like a banner or something on the municipal building would make a whole bunch of people in this town feel way safer. And in order to be as productive as we possibly can, people need to feel safe. And if people know that the select board and the trustees have their backs, I think it's a win-win situation for everyone. So I hope you will consider putting up the banner. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. And Kyle, I've got you up next.
Great, thank you. Thanks for taking my raised hand. I just wanted to say that just like Jackie mentioned that Eric Hutchins is on the Racial Justice Committee, so is Portia Foss, who Dee referenced, who wrote the incredible opinion piece in the last week's News and Citizen. And Dee is also on the Racial Justice Committee. So so this is a select board and a trustee appointed committee that's making this recommendation. This is not just a group of citizens, that are pushing agendas. This is the Racial Justice Committee that was appointed by two boards. So I think it's really important to make that clear. And I also just wanted to say that there's been a lot of talk about this is good for us, or this is not good for us. And I just wanted to say that, I guess like what Jackie said, this is an affirmation. This is not for us. This is for people of color and minorities that have been systematically discriminated against for hundreds and hundreds of years. And these affirmations and symbols, like the Black Lives Matter, flag and movement, that is the largest humanitarian rights movement in the world that it's ever seen, is a small way to say, you are welcome here. You are safe here. We welcome you with open arms. And when people see those symbols, because they may not see our anti-racist statement, they may not see our inclusivity statement on our website, that immediately, like Dee mentioned, brings a sense of feeling safe and welcome. So that's why these things are so important, and even more important and underlined when it is on a municipal building, on a government building, on a school building. These are seats of learning. These are seats of our government, saying we welcome you. We have your back. So I just wanted to make those points clear, that this is not just about us white people. This is for people of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yes, thank you, Kyle. And we do have someone calling by phone, *9 to raise your hand by phone. But I don't currently see anybody else who's waiting to speak for the first time. So we'll start for anybody who wants to speak a second time. Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Couple things. One, a practical thing. You just put new siding on that building. I hope you're not thinking about drilling into that new siding to put a banner up. Number two, Athena said that she hasn't heard anybody say anything about the Black Lives Matter flag on the Village Green. I don't know where she lives, because that's all I hear is a lot of opposition to that flag on municipal property. A third thing, you want to feel welcome in this town, and you think that putting a banner up is going to make people feel more welcome. When this all started, because somebody went through town and called somebody else a racial slur. Nobody knows if that person was even from Johnson. Number two, somebody went on somebody else's property and told them they shouldn't have a Confederate flag on their property when they don't know why that flag was there. what that means to that person could be Southern pride. I know I married somebody from the South. They're not racist in any way. They have a Spanish culture, Spanish in their family, but to them it is a Southern pride thing. So you assumed that that person was a
Hey,
racist
Eric,
by having that
Eric,
flag
point of
up.
order, point of order.
Okay, go ahead.
This is getting a kind of personal and it's getting off the subject. I think this is not germane.
I guess I would have to agree with you, Nat.
Vote no.
Okay.
And I just, if I can follow up, Eric, I've been listening closely to what you've been saying, Ann, and I do appreciate you, your input, but it's kind of gotten directed directly at Athena and now directly at Jackie and into a Confederate flag, and it's just a different sort of subject. So that's it.
Is the board prepared to take action on the request?
Well, I'll just, I'll make the motion that we,
Okay, there's been a motion to hang the banner as proposed by the Racial Justice. Is there a second? Lacking a second, the motion will die. Hearing no second, the motion dies.
May I say something?
Go ahead, Beth.
I just want to be clear about my position on this. I've said this publicly and I'll say it again. I very much support Black Lives Matter. I support the organization. I very much support the movement. I believe hanging the Black Lives Matter banner on the municipal building will impact our ability to make steps toward equality. I'm committed to the acts to further equity of minorities and other underserved demographics in Johnson and our larger community. I'm very much actually committed to doing that. And for those reasons, I actually chose not to second. I just want to make that really clear. I think we can make impactful change. And I'm worried about what a banner does to make that impactful change. I would like to see policies change. I would like to see other steps toward equity happening without the, well, I don't know a better way to say it, but without the in your face of a Black Lives Matter logo. I understand the representation that people are talking about. I truly understand it. And frankly, if I lived in the middle of town, I would have Black Lives Matter all over my house, but I don't. And I am just afraid of the town hanging that bluntly a symbol that clearly is not supported by everyone in our town could lead to other things that will not head down a community of change. And I would like to see action taken in terms of, in other ways, I guess is what I'll say. So thanks for giving me the chance to talk, Eric.
You, Beth. Any other board members want to speak to that matter, or do we want to address the second request that was made from the Racial Justice Committee? That was on more use of the statement, I believe.
Of the inclusivity statement, right?
Yes.
For the inclusivity statement, I mean, the prior board already voted to make it more prominent and put it on the front page of the website and in other places. I don't know that we have to act on it. I think it was already acted on in prior meetings that I followed up on. So I say do it.
I think we can do a better job of more prominently displaying it, but yeah, I think the board has expressed that desire. And I would say that Beth actually added it for our new job description. So I think that's going to be, that kind of statement is going to be going out for job descriptions. When we're bringing people on board, we're going to make sure that that's up front and up right center with our bringing people in to be part of the staff for the town of Johnson. So I think we're making some progress there, but I think there's a lot more to be done.
I guess might look for an official response or request from the racial justice on exactly what they were looking for. I know you've just shared some of the things that we're doing, but I'm not sure if Eric or Rick wanted to, express exactly what they were looking for that we had not done yet.
Okay, I see Eric nodding his head, so I think. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So basically, I believe it was the March 4th. No, it was the February trustees meeting where I looked in the minutes there, where there's a quote from Meredith that says, "Our website is a joint venture between the town and village, so any decisions about changing how the statement is displayed need to be agreed on between town and village. If the trustee board and the select board both directed staff to work on figuring out how to more prominently display it, they could do that." So I guess what we were looking for is for the trustee board and the select board to direct staff to work on figuring out how to more prominently display the inclusivity statement and the anti-racist statement on town literature, website, other kind of documentation. Because I think a motion was made to do this a long time ago. I think, clearly there are a lot of priorities, and I just think directing staff to address this Meredith seemed to think that would move it along. So we were hoping the select board could take that action.
Thank you, Eric. Beth, you raise your hand?
Yeah, that's typically, that's like a work item, right? That typically a board wouldn't look at a website and make design decisions as part of the board work. I would assume they would usually appoint someone to take that action.
Well, actually, the action the board took with the website is we've ordered it to be overhauled and redone because it's pretty dull. It needs to be spiced up.
All right, well, this shouldn't be a heavy lift. Let's just get it on the front page of the website, the inclusivity statement on the front page of the website.
If there is a need for, if you want me to look at the website and say, can you put it here? I would happily volunteer to do that.
I think putting it right on the front page, just under our, where we've got things right now is easy. If there are specific suggestions for other places it could go, that would be kind of useful to hear too. But yeah, we'll throw it on the front page, and we'll continue to kind of keep an eye out for places where we can include it where it hasn't been in the past. We will try to be mindful of expressing that statement whenever we can.
Before we move on from racial justice committee business, I'd like to speak one more time. So please allow me to do that before you guys move on.
Go ahead.
Are we not? So we're all set on this issue?
Yeah.
Great. So I just, after hearing people's comments on our motion to hang the banner and there not being a second and having that motion on the floor, I have to say, as a member of the committee that's put a lot of time into researching a lot of things, it's my belief that the committee, that the select board and the village trustees wanted anti-racism to feature prominently in the town. And so they appointed a group of people whose job it was, as designated experts, to research, evaluate, discuss with the town and each other what are the best ways we could carry out the 5 points that were passed by the select board and the trustees. And, in the last time I was here, we made a strong unanimous recommendation to appoint Sophia Berard. That was tabled. We made another motion here to hang these banners, and we didn't do it just like, we're just going to do whatever we feel like doing. Like, discussions happen in our committees about, like, what's the impact of hanging these banners? Like, some people will disapprove, right? But some people won't. What's the net impact? We're not just taking the extreme of one position and then throw it at the board to either agree or disagree. We were appointed as experts to make these motions, and it kind of doesn't feel great to be putting a lot of time and discussion into these things and then bringing what are essentially unanimous recommendations from committee to the board and then having not even a second or further discussion from other members about it. So, all the things that you said, Beth, we talked about those things and we decided after weighing them that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, that to do the status quo is also to make a stand. There's no neutral on this issue. Just not hanging anything isn't neutral, right? That makes a statement as well, especially when it's been discussed and it's in the newspaper and it's in public minutes. So you're kind of coming down on one side or the other here. You don't get to pretend, let's just play it even, and it feels nice to be able to do that. We'd like to, but that's not where we live right now. And so I'd really encourage the board to take the recommendations from all their committees seriously and believe that serious discussion went into them and serious thought. And, and we publicize these meetings. Anyone can come into our meetings and weigh in these, and we encourage people to. I'm not sure what we're doing if we're going to meet and do research and come up with recommendations and they're not even going to get a second from the board. And then they have to go to the village trustees too. Take these recommendations or take most of them seriously or dissolve the committee, because it's not a great use of people's time. We should find another avenue if that's the way it's going to work out. I respect, everybody's hearts are in the right place here, but I want you to think seriously. We're not just throwing these things out there. We put a lot of thought into it and we think it's what's best. And I believe that the committee was formed with the best of intentions. And I think following through on those intentions is what we need to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Let me just address a little bit of what you said. I think that's part of the reason that we've requested going forward that there'll be a monthly report from some representative of the committee. And that's a way for you to get some guidance from the board on what we may or may not support and heading into the future. For me personally, I stated this with the flag, and it goes with the banner or anything of that nature. I would not support it. I've said that I would not support anything that's political, a movement or protests or anything of that nature on the municipal property in front of the town clerk's office. In my heart, I don't feel it's appropriate, and that's why I would not have supported it and would not have seconded it. But that's my personal feelings, and other board members may have other reasons. I see there's a few more hands, Brian, that have gone up.
Yep. All right, I've got Jackie up first. Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, I want to thank the Vice Chair of the Racial Justice Committee, Eric Hutchins, for his comments. I wholeheartedly support them. And as someone who was not appointed by this board to the Racial Justice Committee, but someone who's attended all of the meetings for the past 6 months, I really echo everything that Eric said. I had concerns when this committee was first formed, as you know, as to where it was going. And those concerns are really starting to hit home when, as Eric said, we don't even get a second for this board don't even get a second to discuss it. That is really, really disappointing. I'm not sure what you think is going to come out of this board or what you ever intended for this, the work of this board to do, but this board has been working and they're coming up with recommendations. And at the last meeting when they recommended Sophia, board members clung to procedure. And yet just a little while ago, we had the Planning Commission on, and that was just a murky mess of a committee. Nobody knew who was appointed or who was interviewed, how many times, and so I feel that there's procedure gets clung to with certain committees and not clung to with other committees. But this is a really wonderful committee that's really shaping up and starting to move. And I hope that people who are on this meeting will come to meetings and speak. And again, this stuff isn't just thrown out arbitrarily. This is stuff that's talked about and worked on. And maybe this board can tell a racial justice committee what they had in mind when they set up a racial justice committee, and what work do you envision happening? Because this is very typical work of a racial justice committee that you turned down handily.
Jackie?
So Eric?
Yes, go ahead, Nat.
I mean, we have an agenda and we've got a lot of things on our plate ahead. I know, the banner was on our agenda. Some of the recommendations were on the agenda, and I'm just not sure where we are on the agenda now. Are we just having a general discussion about the Racial Justice Committee, or what's the topic?
Yeah, I respect that. We've heard from Athena first before. Kim, who is that, Brian?
I'm not sure which Kim that is, but I don't believe we've heard from them before.
But why don't we allow them to speak and then we'll move on?
Okay, Kim.
That looks like Shane. I'm sorry. That does look like Shane has not spoken yet. So.
No, I see you now, Shane. So we'll loop. I'm going to do Kim, and then I'll loop back to you. And thank you for your patience.
Hey, thank you for a moment to speak. I just wanted to actually in part answer Jackie's question. I think the racial committee has a lot of great work to do, because we instead of battering the walls and continuing on trying to do the banner as the thing, there's so many places. Hiram had a wonderful opportunity that's actually more visible on the HOAG's property than it is at the town hall, and yet you dismiss that instead of saying, I'm sorry, I should pitch this more towards the select board. The select board as people who have the power to make a decision, possibly tossing it back to the racial committee as, look, there's an opportunity, it's not on public property. You don't have the resistance that you're finding, and you have the visibility. If that's what you want, bingo. And instead focus on how to bring our community together and how to help some of the facts that Nat threw out, which were great, just to get everybody on the same page instead of beating people up who don't see that motto as being the motto. So I appreciate this discussion. I appreciate all the work that the racial committee is doing, but let's try to see it from both sides, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, Shane.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to agree with a lot of what Kim said and what Beth said, and just say that I think we could wallpaper the entire town with Black Lives Matter banners and flags and still not do much to address a lot of the facts that Nat had brought up earlier. So I really look forward to some of the suggestions coming from the Racial Justice Committee on that. And I want to just reiterate what I said last time. These meetings, well, I could not figure out when the last Racial Justice Committee meeting was. So I would like if, and this is just a general suggestion, if the exact date and time could be posted on the Front Porch Forum calendar, as well as on Facebook page for the town of Johnson, so that everyone who wants to attend these meetings can know when they are and what Zoom info we need to log into and all that. I would really appreciate that, because I would like to take part. So thank you.
So
thank you, Shane.
Brian, I think with the board's pleasure, we'll move on to just Rick, who raised his hand, and then we'll move on to our agenda.
All right. So Rick, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I don't mean to drag this out, because I agree that it had already been brought up and that you had moved on. But to clarify with Shane from the beginning, the Racial Justice Committee has met on the first Thursday of every month. That started in November. I think the agendas are put out at least a week before the meetings occur. And there have been some notes, I believe, in the News and Citizen, and I'm not sure if we did get one on Front Porch Forum, but we can do that. And to speak to the issue of raising the flag on private property, that was discussed in July. If you look at the minutes of the village trustees, they even held a special meeting to discuss it and came up with no conclusion, because really, whether it's the select board or the village trustees, there's no apparatus for either board to either affirm or deny what a citizen does with the flagpole on their property. So since it's been since July, I guess it would really be up to the property owner to decide whether or not they want to put the flagpole up. Is that my understanding?
You're probably correct. Yes, Rick.
Thank you. And I won't take up any more of your
Okay.
time.
Okay, let's move on. Administrative assistant job description.
Eric, if we have some time at the end, we might be able to loop back for you, but we've got to move on with our agenda. And Kyle, same, if we have some time at the end, we'll see if we can get back and cover this again, but we've got to move on for the time being.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I had a coughing fit. I guess you probably heard.
I think everybody heard.
I guess I'm not get over that grip yet.
So we have made the changes to the administrative assistant job description with Beth, Meredith, and Rosemary's help, and we have all the updates for that. I wouldn't say the changes are too substantive. I'd say that one of the highlights would be the addition of, let's see if I can find this. I can find, and I've got Beth's copy here. The addition of the kind of a shortened statement of the.
This isn't in our packet, is it?
No.
It isn't. There's a. Sorry, this is my fault. I got a new computer and.
No, that's okay.
Made changes to the document in between getting a new.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing it here.
Yeah. No, I'd gotten changes in between getting the new computer and. Yeah, so we've got it here. Let's see. And let me take out the red line.
You're gonna blow it up a little bit too.
That a little easier for you to read?
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
I think there's a version 4. Brian.
I think there was a draft 4. That might be the draft that didn't get transferred to my new computer.
I'm sending it to you right now.
Okay.
So you're just gonna go down through and point out the substance.
Point out the major changes from the last time. I mean, most of this was kind of tuning up the language a little bit. All right. Do you see the markups? Here, let me.
No markups.
Okay.
Oh, now we see markups.
And now I'm going to get rid of them again. Okay. So what Beth, Rosemary, and Meredith's help, we kind of tuned up the language a little bit to make it a little bit more kind of modernized and a little bit more interesting. I guess you'd say, a little more kind of the action words and things that you'd like to see in a job description. But the tasks are about what we discussed. We added, we want a more active engagement with social media, and we want this to be a person that we can turn to and use to help promote the town's use of social media. Website management, this should be changed to website administration. As a preferred qualification, but not a necessary qualification. And the kind of strengthening the anti-discrimination statement to be our statement of inclusivity and a stronger anti-discrimination statement.
Okay.
Print it.
Great. So yeah, job posting is out. We're looking for candidates.
Eben, go ahead.
Oh, I was just picking on that. I was saying it's 2021. You don't print it and send it out. Put it out there.
Thanks, Evan.
The only way us old people can deal with it.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of luck with it yet. We're gonna get it out to 7 days. We're gonna get it a little more widely. We're gonna get it out to 7 days. I think we might post it on Indeed. I know that was one that Greg had recommended that he had some success with, Greg Tatro, but we didn't, when we posted the public works supervisor position there, we didn't get great success with it, but I think we'll try it again.
So let me ask the board if they feel comfortable formally adopting this job description, understanding that this is your first viewing of it.
Yep. Yes.
Are you so moving?
Yes.
We have a second.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any more discussion?
Makes me nervous that Beth didn't chime right in with a second, given that she.
Well, I felt like I already knew. I know. I'm not the one who needs to be comfortable.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure it didn't.
No, I'm totally comfortable with it. The only thing the only comment I have, I guess, is about advertising, and I'm wondering if do we advertise on the Vermont League of Cities and Towns?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Not seeing or hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any thoughts on when you're hoping to have somebody on board?
As soon as possible. I would really like to have somebody in by the beginning of May, if we can manage it at all. I'd really like to have at least a little bit of overlap with Ann if we can manage it.
Okay.
So what's that process? In the past, we've kind of had obviously you kind of take the first shot at looking through them, Brian, and then there's sometimes a smaller committee, or you just want to go straight to the board after that?
That's a good question. Right now our plan is to do a paper cut with Rosemary, Meredith, and myself. We had discussed sharing, because it's not a shared position, but it's a position that does interact with village departments, that we were going to loop them in at least at the beginning. And then we would start doing interviews after that. And I would think that my impression of it would be that we'd interview with Rosemary, Meredith, Eric, and myself. Eric being our chair. If somebody else wants to volunteer from the select board, they can, or they can, you know, when we did highway operators, that was usually just the public works supervisor and myself. So the board isn't always involved in that first cut. So it's kind of up to you if you want board representation on the first cut or not. The first interview cut.
The board will still have the final
interview
and appointment.
Yeah, no, that's not, I'm good with that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll handle it administratively until we make the first interview cut or the second total cut. So for second interviews, that'll happen with the select board.
We already voted on the job description. I see there's 2 public hands up. Are they, if your hand is up for the job description, administrative assistant job description, I'll recognize you.
Ann's hand has come up. Kyle's, I think, is still up from before. So I'm sorry, Kyle, if I can't recognize if you're.
Okay, she took it down.
Okay.
So
So, yeah.
I'm guessing Ann's hand up is reference to the job description.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ann.
Sorry, it took me a second. I just want to make sure that you loop the girls in on who you get in the office, because we've had somebody in there before that didn't work well with the rest of the people in the office, and it caused a lot of problems. So I really hope that you will take their recommendations seriously. My shoes are going to be huge to fill, and you know, I have to make you laugh. And I have 29 days left, in case you didn't know. But yeah, I just think it's really important for them to have somebody that fits in well.
Good
Thank you,
point.
Ann.
Brian, I think Mike is muted still.
Keep it that way.
All right.
Yeah, I heard that, Nat, and I can start talking, I guess. I thought I was quite silent this evening
We didn't realize.
till I started coughing.
All right.
We ready with that item?
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Moving on. Sorry, let me catch back up. VASA land use agreement for the light industrial park property. So in the past, VASA has had a trail that crosses the Jewett property of the light industrial park, and they would like that to continue with no anticipated changes.
Okay, I see Ken's hand popped up.
Yep.
Maybe he wants to address it.
Go ahead, Ken.
Good evening, everybody. Ken Toronto. I was a liaison for Green Mountain ATV. In the past board has allowed us to use the Jewett property, the industrial park, or whatever it's called now. We've done no trail maintenance. We just basically used most of the old vast trail, and we skirted the property line for future thinking of the park being started. I don't believe anything was starting this year, so we'd like to continue that use. That gets us to a store. And we put in an expensive trail through Tom Foster's land to get that way. So we'd really like to continue the use. I told the board I'd check back in with them yearly to make sure that it's still available. We'd like to do it.
Okay.
Basically, you all know that the paperwork insures the town from any liability or damage.
you could cancel it at any time. They know that. For the new members that don't know it, Evan and Beth, that's basically it for the use of that. But I also wanted to remind, I can't remember which meeting it was, but I asked about getting something from one of you in writing as to how we should deal with the speed limit adjustments that we were discussing. So I can make sure that the future trail master and the club will stay in them parameters as we discussed. And I'd also like to inform you that we have been working with other residents about speed. Tonight, I actually had a conversation, well, an email with Carl Powden on Cotton Hollow. So we're going to do some lowering of speed limit in our caution sensitive area signs in that area as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I had a written setup on how to remove the speed limit sign that we discussed. And because I might not be doing it basically. So I just wanted to make sure that the club follows the parameters that I've agreed on with all of you.
I'll help you get in touch with Hugh Albright, our public works supervisor, and you two, can kind of formalize the process for how to lower speed limits.
Perfect.
I don't think we're gonna get too many complaints about lowered speed limits.
I hope not.
Revisit it if you ever want to raise any, but lowering, I think we can just go ahead and do that.
And one more thing, I remember you were talking about the town sign ordinance, and I asked you to consider when you were doing that about making sure that we are allowed to put our sign in the placement of yours, so it's not breaking any laws.
Yep, that is still a part of our speed limit, our draft speed limit ordinance, but that has not been updated and adopted.
Okay, and I'm sure that could possibly be addressed also when we revisit doing the ordinance. And also I want all the members to know that the club and VASA will abide by what we agreed on, because you have waived the ordinance, that we will abide by what the ordinance was. And we still at this time do not have the permit for Main Street. So I will notify the board the moment we get it so that you know, and at the earliest it wouldn't open till May 15th. That's when our trail system opens. So anybody's that listening, see any ATVs out in the roads, call the cops, get their plate number, because they're not supposed to be out there and the club does not promote them being out there. And also for the board to know, we will be actively participating in Green Up Day in Lamoille County. So we will be in Johnson, Morrisville, Hyde Park, Eden, part of Waterville. But again, we'd like to use the land. It's simple paperwork. I believe you guys motioned that Eric could sign it. I could get it to Brian all filled out. He could share it with you all if you need to see it. And I mean, I do not need it before the 15th, but it would be great to get it in because VASA is as slow as you guys sometimes.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, moving right along. What's the board's pleasure with the request from VASA? Basically, it's the same request as they've had for a few years on use of a Jewett property.
So move.
We have motion. Do we have a second?
I can't.
Motion second. Any discussion?
So my kind of take on any ATV action has been that I'd really like to see this committee up and going between different people with different views on ATVs. And I'm not sure I have a sense of the select board, whether that's something we're going to do or not, or if we are going to do it when. So I'd like to see that happen before we do anything else on ATVs. And I'm not against this, but I'd just like to put the cart before the horse, or the horse before the cart. I forget, but do it in the right order.
I guess maybe that would be a topic for a future meeting on if we're going to start up a committee and how we would staff it, advertise for it, or what have you, how we'd fill it.
Well, the vote was taken, Mr. Chairman, and it was voted down. So what's our business forming another committee for this?
I think our interest is in helping people work together when they have concerns and when they have conflicting uses of a public asset, such as a highway. And I think that there's actually a lot of benefit to ATV users and to non-ATV users to having such a forum. For instance, I think that both Ken and Kirsten Owens wanted to lower a speed limit on Hoag Road this past year, but the select board, for whatever reason, didn't go along with that. So I just think that there could be recommendations made and communication happen between the two parties to just make for a more peaceful community.
Well, I believe that the speed limit was reduced on Hoag Road by the ATV crew.
Why don't I suggest we put this on a future agenda item so we can address just the question before us tonight?
Fair enough.
And we had a motion and a second on the industrial park allowance for VASA. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes have it.
I abstain. Thank you.
And one abstention. Marvin Ward nomination.
So the Marvin Public Service Awards are open. So we have the option of submitting and nominating an individual and or a project for the awards.
Any board members have any suggestions?
I thought you had recommended Doug Moldy for the excellence in community service.
Doug's received it before.
Oh, he has?
He
received it in 2008. I would actually like to recommend someone.
Who's that?
Lois Fry, who has, I think, innumerable, is that a word? Contributions to our town over the years. Lois is everywhere all the time. She's omnipresent, and I think we should recognize her for all she's contributed.
I would endorse that.
A founding member of the Conservation Commission, if I'm not wrong, for which because of which we have the Beard swimming hole and the Journey's End, not Journey's End. What is that water access?
Beards, or
I think you do mean Journey's End, don't you?
They
Journey's
call
End.
it Journey's End.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, it's getting late. But yeah, Lois is a great idea.
I think she wants to speak.
Okay, you got to unmute, Lois. There you go.
I think it would be more appropriate to nominate the Johnson Conservation Commission, because it's been the whole commission that has handled pieces and parts and all the projects that have gone on during the last, I think it's 15 years now. And so if there is a group award, I think it would be far more appropriate and more appreciated going in that way. Thank you.
Add humility to the list of
Yes.
attributes that Lois.
Eric,
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
this is the trouble with this, because this is not done in an executive session. It's too bad that it can't be. It takes away the whole surprise of this whole thing for deserving people. And it gives people who are very humble the ability to try to back out of it. And Lois, you certainly deserve it.
I mean,
So
this is one time we wouldn't have to listen to what her recommendation is.
that's right. We wouldn't have to listen to her. But it's too bad that we couldn't do it in secret. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, don't tell her What's the board's pleasure?
Oh, brother.
I think,
I think-
it's not just her work on conservation, it's her work in the Historical Society.
And the whole community.
I mean, she's been so active in so many different things.
And for how many years has she sat through our select board meetings? Before Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Select board has to have a groupie.
Think of the time she sat through our budget meetings. And she was the only one in attendance, for crying out loud.
So I would just like to throw out, if other folks have like, I'm sure the list is long that all of us on this call can't even speak to. If folks have like additional ideas for ways Lois has contributed, I would happily collect them.
Brian, would you please take charge of that, collecting those and putting her name in? And do we
I would enthusiastically accept Beth's assistance on this.
Okay.
So email them to myself or to Beth, and we'll get together and compile a complete list and write the letter for it. The letter will be stronger for having another set of eyes and some cooperation on it. So thank you very much for offering to help them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does the board have a project they'd like nominate? I'm struggling to think of something in the community that's this year that happened.
It has to have completed in 2020, correct?
Right.
Yeah, we've struggled in the past. We tried to nominate Jenna's house specifically, and last year it wasn't sufficiently completed to be, what they would have thought to be a competitive project. That there was still too much going on, so they didn't really consider it. I don't know if that would change in their opinion this year or not. They've done a lot more work on it.
I think next year they would be a great candidate, because by then I think they're going to be pretty much rocking and rolling. Okay. Well, if anybody comes up with a great idea to submission there, get it to the board, get it to Brian. American Rescue Plan funding.
All right. So we could spend a lot of time on this or very little time on this. So the American Rescue Plan was passed near the beginning of March. In that plan, there are a lot of funds for a pretty wide variety of applications, quite a bit going to state and local government. It was originally written in the plan to go to county government. That's been fixed, I'm not sure through legislative action or through implementation, but it's now in Vermont primarily going to towns. The state is keeping a little bit more of the allocation to accommodate for other entities, other municipal entities that are not covered by our town system. But we will be getting money, and the numbers that are out there are pretty accurate at the town level of how much money we're getting. How that is going to be shared with the village is not 100% clear. I believe that the dollar figure that's out there for the town of Johnson is actually the figure that's for the town of Johnson and the village of Johnson. So I think they're receiving a portion of that, and not that we have to decide amongst ourselves how to divide it between the two entities. But that's still not 100% clear. The guidance from the Treasury Department about how this money needs to be spent has not been written yet. We might actually get the money before we get the guidance on how to spend it. The money has to be spent by 2024, so we have a little bit longer in order to spend all of the money. But no, we don't have great guidance on how to spend it yet. We know a couple things are ineligible. We cannot use this money to give funds to reduce taxes. So we can't just give this back to the taxpayer. We have to actually spend it on projects. Let's see, one of the big questions that I've had about this is, can this be used as matching funds? So can we use this pot of money to match for other grants? And the answer is also a maybe. I was on a call this morning that had a very positive outlook on this. I've spoken to Congressman Welch's office before, and they didn't have a negative opinion about it, but they definitely felt that this was still an open question. But the guidance I got this morning looks quite a bit more optimistic about using it as a source for matching funds. Yeah, there's a lot we don't know. I've included one set of questions. I've got a lot more. Got a lot more that I can present. I've attended a few classes on this. Some of the recommendations, let's see. Yeah, December, well, it has to be used by December 31st of 2024. VLCT is going to offer assistance for accounting for this money, so that they, whatever the requirements are that come down, they're going to be able to assist us if we need it. That's largely aimed at even smaller communities that don't have a professional staff, but it still might be something that's worth us investigating, because this amount of money is probably going to cause us to get a federal audit. So we're going to be preparing for, we're going to operate on the assumption that we will be audited for the next couple of years. Let's see, yeah, it is 65 billion to counties and 65 billion to local municipalities. So that gets split up a little bit different for Vermont than it does for other communities. But the big thing is that there is almost 200 billion going directly to the state, and a significant amount of that money is going for other grant programs. So before we spend any of our money on a project, there's going to be tons of new grant programs and existing grant programs that are that have more funding than they usually do. So before we spend on any particular project, we're going to want to do a little bit of research on, did we exhaust other options before we spend our pile of cash on? Like, I know libraries and I know broadband are going to get a lot of money out of this program, and broadband just got another shot in the arm from a package that hasn't passed yet for more rural broadband support. So I know that we'd heard from Doug and Paul Warden and Charlotte, our representatives for the CUD, asking for a share of this money. I think we're going to want to see what they do with the other funds that are available to them before we tap into this source. This is really our pot of unrestricted funds that we can use on any project. Yeah, it's unclear how that's going to be shared with the village, but there's going to be, the village is also getting something.
Brian, you've left out the most important thing.
What's that?
How much?
No, it is, again, these numbers can change, but it looks right now that we're getting $360,000.
What a bunch of pork.
Yeah, but it tastes pretty good on
Oh
our plate.
yeah, we're getting a few slices of bacon here, aren't we? Wow. And they're going to audit us, but they won't audit the Pentagon. That really makes a lot of sense.
But
Well, they spend it wisely.
Oh yeah, big time.
So speaking of spending it wisely, the thing that just comes to my mind is we really need to act quickly on figuring out what our priorities are in terms of projects, because if there's going to be lots of opportunity for money coming in, whether it be this or other grants or anything else, we need to be ready to pick those things up and run with them. And if we aren't collectively on the same page, we're going to waste a lot of time talking about what we should and shouldn't do, and then not being able to do it.
Hear you.
Very good point.
That sounds like a good job for you.
Or someone who's retired.
Right? Somebody with time on their hands for crying out loud.
I'm gonna get a job here right off, so I'm going back to work.
So
In all
basically, this is just a heads up right now because we don't know the rules. We don't know exactly what we're gonna get for money, but it's all good news anyhow.
Yeah, this is really a heads up. I think that it's worth sharing with, our highway department, our rec department, the library, and other community organizations should be thinking about this, but they should not be thinking of us first. That there are other grant programs and other monies available that have dedicated uses, and we should try and use up all of those dedicated funds and get our hands on as much of that first, and then use this money to backfill any place that that either doesn't fit a grant program, or if the grant program can't pay for the whole project and we need money for a match for another grant. That's where I really want to be able to use this fund, is as matching funds for those other grant applications.
And it shouldn't be used for maintenance or normal.
No.
Things
No,
that we
these
would
are
do
one-time
for-
funds.
Yeah, so it should be something that moves the needle on the community.
The other thing about one-time funds is if we're doing things and building things, maintenance matters. And are we going to be able to maintain it long-term? I mean, that needs to be part of the discussion when we're talking about priorities of work.
Yeah. That's a big discussion of any of our recreation applications, especially, is there's a lot of expansion that we could do, but once we do it, we've got that for the future.
Okay. This was just an FYI for the board. I know Jessica would like to speak.
Yep.
And anyone else, and then we'll loop back around, open it up to anyone who wants to address the board.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to Jess first.
Thank you. And there are some limitations on some of the funds. So what you were saying about like looking, but then circling back, because we know from early indicators that the funds that are available for libraries aren't necessarily available for facilities like infrastructure, the facilities piece. So, so there may be some projects that might make sense with the library being an information hub, that we may, kind of raise our hand and say, if funds are available, this might be a project that would benefit the community long-term. So that was all. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks. And I see Jackie.
I just wanted to get my hand up because I'm waiting for the loop around. So if you want to come back to me, that's fine.
Okay, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else from the board or community that wants to speak of the rescue plan? If not, we can loop it back around, and then unless the board's got any other business, we will adjourn after that. Okay, let's loop it back around for, I know Kyle, I believe, had her hand up as well.
We had Kyle and Eric. We had asked them to be patient. So, Jackie, I appreciate you raising your hand, but I am going to call on the two that we had kind of left off with. So I'm going to go to Eric first, and then I'm going to look for Kyle's attendance here.
I know it's late, so I'm gonna do my best to be as quick as possible. A couple of times I've been incorrectly identified as the vice chair of the Racial Justice Committee. That's actually Portia Foss. Despite claims to the contrary, our racial justice meetings have been publicized on Front Porch Forum and multiple times in the News and Citizen. And they've been at the same time, first Thursday of the month, 6 o'clock for 6 months. Eric, I want to thank you for your comments about getting a report from me or another representative so we can have back and forth over what we're doing and what expectations are. And I didn't have a chance to do that today. We moved on before I was able to weigh in. I think you've seen the motions that have come that you guys have either passed or rejected. But so I want to have you guys think about if the things we're passing aren't palatable to you guys to vote on, like what kind of things do you want us to do? I'd like you guys to think about that. And, education is a thing. We reached out to Boryang. She's not currently available. We've heard some rumblings that Peace and Justice Center is off the table because some people on the board have political issues with them. Apparently public displays are another part of the 5-point plan that aren't really palatable right now. And so I'm curious what it is we should be working on if it's not those things. I haven't heard a lot about that, and I'd appreciate the back and forth. I don't know how that can take place or when, but it would be really useful to us to know what is the best thing for us to spend our time on. The other thing is, just one last thing I'll say, and then I'll be done, is I know a lot of people were against this Black Lives Matter display thing because it's political, right? But you guys are a government agency. Every single thing you do is political, right? When you pave someone's road and we all pay taxes for it, that's political. Every single thing you guys do is political. Even when you fund the library, some people benefit, some people pay for it and don't. That's political, right? A fire department is essentially a socialist organization, right? It's money taken from everybody for the common good. It's publicly owned property, and that's a political statement whenever everything we support, right? So it's not really that this Black Lives Matter flag is political as much as it's controversial, right? And so I just like everybody to think about, why is that controversial, right? Why is that controversial? I just let everybody just sit with that one and come back to that next time. But I appreciate it. We're going to keep doing the work. And I think, people are going to be a little disheartened by some of the vote tonight. But if we could get some feedback, I don't know what format that would take if we have to wait to the next select board meeting for that, but some direction, I think, from everybody on the board would be appreciated. So we know how to best use our efforts, because it feels a little disheartening that we haven't made more progress. And it felt to us like a public display is the banner was a pretty low bar, right? Do you want to do racial equity inventory and training for all town employees? You want us to talk about reparations for people of color? You want us to talk about tax breaks for women and minority owned businesses? That seems like far off stuff. That's a pretty big lift. So things like public displays seemed like an entry point, not a tough thing. So if you guys could reflect on those comments and help us do the right work that would yield the most benefit for everybody, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And Kyle, you had your hand up.
Sure, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, wow, Eric Hutchins, spot on. And I really hope everyone was taking detailed notes there, because that is a lot of what I wanted to reiterate as well, is just getting, this board clearly needs to get very clear on what they want the Racial Justice Committee to do. Do they want them to, yeah, I mean, do racial justice? That's what this is. So, and the other thing I just wanted to bring up was, I'm noticing a real disparity between how some committees are treated with process and how others are not. And tonight it was really, really glaring. So I think that needs to be looked at. I think that needs to get clear. And that, yeah, again, back to justice, fairness, and equity, you know, in the way in which the select board treats its committees when it comes to due process. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Kyle. And Jackie?
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Eric and Kyle, for those articulations. Yeah, I have a comment and a question. And so my comment is, and Kyle touched upon this a little bit, is traditionally, typically, when any board or committee comes to the select board with a proposal or a recommendation, it's on the agenda, and the agenda is read, and then usually, typically, members of that committee, usually leadership, sorry, Eric, for saying you were the vice chair, but it's usually opened up. So whether it's the Johnson Conservation Commission, we have a proposal, recreation, beautification, whatever, they have an agenda item, and then it's opened up to people on that committee to explain, discuss, and pitch whatever their proposal or recommendation is. And then after that, the board members might have questions or comments. And then after that, it's opened up for public comment. What we saw tonight is this proposal for a BLM banner, and there was no opportunity given to the Racial Justice Committee members to discuss, explain, pitch the idea. It was immediately opened up to the public. Ann Mullings, first person to speak, and it went on from there. So this is a diversion from process that usually has worked well in the past. And so again, it seems like a different standard for this committee compared to other committees. And so what was that about? Why did that happen? It almost feels a bit intentional. Can someone, yeah, Brian, what happened there?
You know, I apologize for that. There was no intention of deviation. Yeah, I don't have a great explanation for it. That the process normally is exactly as you describe it, that when we have something on the agenda, we usually rely on kind of my introduction and then expert testimony from whoever has brought the proposal to us or anything else. And yeah, if I went to Ann first, before I gave Eric or Rick an opportunity to speak, you're right, and I apologize. That was not a deviation that was intended. I'd heard it earlier brought up about Planning Commission and how their appointments and their whole thing has been different. To be frank, I would say that the difficulty we have with the Planning Commission, exactly why we need to adhere to process. That we're having trouble organizing and communicating with the Planning Commission because we haven't done a great job of following process with them. And we're trying to fix that. So I would not take that has been handled a little bit differently as anything other than we're trying to improve our handling of the Planning Commission to handle it more like we've handled things with the Racial Justice Committee. That this has been, by and large, I'm comfortable with how we've handled the Racial Justice Committee because I think we've been adhered to process pretty well.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for that. And I don't want to put it, thank you for acknowledging the deviation in process with the proposal tonight. And I don't want to put it all on you because we have a whole select board here who knows that process very well. And any one of them could have stepped in and said, hey, wait a minute, let's hear from the committee members and let them discuss their proposal before we open it up to the public, because we might have some questions from the people who are on that committee and making a proposal. So it's not just you, it was the whole board, the whole thing just kind of was like a train off the tracks. Anyone else want to chime in on that? What happened there? It's not Brian's fault.
Not sure if we can really say anything. It is what it is.
I think what actually happened is Brian proposed, asked Eric to speak, didn't see Rick on the call. When I saw Rick, I said, Rick has his hand up, is actually what happened. But I just want to mention one thing, because Eric asked about suggestions and having open dialogue. I'm certainly happy to have open dialogue. No one's ever asked me directly. I'm happy to have the conversation anytime. I want to bring up one thing that is an example. I went to a select board training last week before, whenever it was. It wasn't super in-depth. I did ask a question during it, though. I asked very specifically for hearings, because select board hold like dog bite hearings. For hearings, are there, I copied this, so I'm going to read it. Are there guidelines or tools for overcoming biases as board members in order to be fair and equitable in decisions?